The area of Fort Lane Road, not like yards away from Lake Harney, and on our way to one of the evacuation centers in Oviedo when we saw this mess on our drive over. So we're at the intersection of State Road 46 and County Road 426, aka First Street here in the Geneva area. And wow, within the last 20 minutes, this flooding here, if you will, has more than doubled. And what's happening is the drivers who are heading eastbound on State Road 46 are making the right turn to head southbound on County Road 426 and are being just blindsided by this massive amount of water. Now, I had an opportunity to speak to the worker here at the Circle K to our left, and he says that in storms past, this entire intersection gets covered with water. And I'm telling you, there's more and more water falling. Obviously, it's raining out here right now in Geneva. There's a steady stream of water and runoff coming down the road into this area. So it's just a matter of time before it grows even more. Which brings me to my next point. If you are driving out there or have plans to go out, you shouldn't. But if you do, be mindful of these, well, here you go. Here's you got some cars going through the flooding now. Be mindful that you never know what's underneath the water, right? Things could wash away. There could be a big hole under this. So whenever you see a big pond of water like this in a row, make sure you drive around it. For now, though, that's the latest here live in Geneva. Next time you see me, I'll be over in Oviedo at the Lawton Child's Evacuation Center. Back to you guys inside.
All right, be careful out there, Q. Again, flooding such a main issue and going to be a main issue for the duration of this storm. We want to get you out into Lake County right now.
Channel 9's Jeff Deal live in Eustis. Jeff, what are you seeing and feeling?
Well, the good thing is we're not seeing the flooding like Q is seeing over there in the Geneva area. What we have been seeing is just kind of bands of rain coming through. It'll slow down for a little while. We'll get a little bit of wind, and then all of a sudden we'll get quite a bit more rain. When we were in Tavares, it wasn't raining. We drove over here to Eustis, and then we started hitting some of the rain. Out here on the lake, it's a little bit misty out here. One of the areas that we were taking a look at over here to our left is this manufactured home community. As we were driving by, we could see several of those units had sandbags around the actual properties. We didn't see too much activity. Hopefully people had planned early, basically, and got out there and secured their homes earlier than today. We did speak with a woman at one of the emergency shelters earlier. She lived in a manufactured home community, and she said that most of her neighbors actually planned to ride it out, but she wasn't taking any chances, that she likes to go to the shelter just because of damage that she suffered at her home in the past. As we were driving around the other part of the lake where there are actually standing homes on the lake, we didn't see too much activity out there either. We saw one family putting sandbags around the entrance to their garage, perhaps hoping that they're not going to get any floodwaters into their garage area. Here in Lake County, emergency officials telling us earlier that they're hoping to have people in place, have their plan together, be in place by 2 o'clock this afternoon. That's when they think that things could start getting bad in this area, and then they encourage people, just like Q said, stay home. After that, they want people to stay inside their homes. The sheriff earlier saying, help us, help you. Basically, they don't want to have to go out and rescue people or help people if they're out driving around when they don't necessarily have to be. But we're going to continue to monitor things out here in Lake County and check out a couple of other spots, and we'll keep you updated throughout the day. For now, reporting live from Eustis in Lake County, Jeff Deal, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Jeff, and we've seen gas pumps covered up and some businesses boarded up here in Orange County. And now we want to head over to the coast in Volusia County.
Channel 9's Demi Johnson live in Daytona Beach. And Demi, what are you seeing out there?
Few minutes, things have really started to pick up. The rain, the wind, you can see the waves are starting to get a little bit crazier out here. It's hard to find a part of the beach, too, that's not underwater at this point. Everything is pretty soaked. We talked to some people around Daytona Beach. I said this earlier. They said they can't remember a time in 20 or 30 years when a hurricane was hitting one coast and impacted this coast so early on in the storm. Again, Volusia County will be under a mandatory curfew starting at 8 p.m. But even earlier than that, the bridges here in Daytona Beach are going to shut down. So if you have to get stuff done, get it done now before you're caught out in that, because you can face fines of up to $500 and even get jail time for being out in the storm after the curfew goes into effect. That curfew does stay in effect until 7 a.m. on Friday. We're going to keep driving around, seeing what's going on around the beach, and we'll check back in with you guys later. For now, live at Daytona Beach, Demi Johnson, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Demi, great report there, and you talked to the people that have been here for a while and when they can compare. And when we talked about it yesterday, Martha, as we get ready to talk about the helpline as well, the storm is so big that when it comes back around, it's so large, it's coming back around and hitting the Atlantic coast.
Again, remember, takeaway here, mandatory curfew, 8 p.m. for Daytona Beach. Bridges are also going to be shut down, so you need to be where you need to be in place because everything is going to be shut down.
And WFTV, as we've mentioned, here for all your storm-related questions. It's a helpline.
Yeah, our hurricane helpline is now up and running. You can call the number that you see right there on your screen right now. It's 1-800-832-WFTV, 1-800-832-9388.
Yeah, that's an important, you'll have a lot of questions like where's my power, what's going on. Here's a live look taking you out to one of the coastlines really starting to feel those impacts. Again, the rough surf out there, and luckily these folks in this particular area have heeded the warnings and they're inside. This is a live look at Daytona Beach, the world's most famous beach. We'll see how things shape up throughout the rest of the day as we continue to follow Hurricane Ian. We'll check back in with our certified team of meteorologists next.
Let the weight fall off with our Medi Weight Loss New You Fall Special. Tired of losing just 1 to 2 pounds a week? Lose up to 20 pounds your first month. Schedule your free assessment today and get real weight loss now with Medi Weight Loss, accepting most insurance plans.
With the guaranteed offer, you can receive the strongest cash offer in the industry. Sell your home for maximum profit without the hassle of ever putting it on the market. With the guaranteed offer, there are no showings, no open houses, no stress. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer in your home today.
Hey Todd, after my injury with no idea what to do, you were there every step of the way from beginning to end, and there is not an attorney that I trust more. Thank you and your team for everything.
I'm Todd Miner. I built my firm with former insurance company professionals because I believe there's no greater advantage than having worked on the other side. That's how I get great results for my clients, and I'd like to do the same for you. There's a reason people choose Todd Miner Law. So call us today. The consultation is absolutely free.
Here's to the handholders, the caregivers, the listeners, the eyes, ears, hands, and hearts of healthcare. The bridge between what's possible and what happens. The best of the best. At Orlando Health, we're hiring nurses who share that spirit and proudly investing in our own to continue growing the best care team around. They're just some of the ways we support our nurses. Won't you join them?
Why shop Central Florida Toyota? Survey says save during the 72-hour sale. Get up to $1,000 more for your vehicle. We want your trade. Plus new RAV4s, $149 a month. New Camrys, $129 a month. CentralFloridaToyota.com.
Let the weight fall off with our Medi Weight Loss New You Fall Special. Tired of losing just 1 to 2 pounds a week? Lose up to 20 pounds your first month. Schedule your free assessment today and get real weight loss now with Medi Weight Loss, accepting most insurance plans.
Right now.
Welcome back. We're in continuing coverage of Hurricane Ian, and we have a team on the west coast of Florida right now where heavy winds are already increasing.
Yeah, and tens of thousands of locals there already dealing with power outages here in Florida. Let's check in with reporter Dave Faraday. He is in Sarasota, where several residents are seeking safety at shelters.
Well, the winds have really intensified here along the west coast of Florida. We've seen a number of trees down. We've also seen folks scrambling to get out of the way of the storm as it intensified overnight. A number of people began showing up at some of the shelters in the area. Take a look at this video. This is video over at an elementary school in Sarasota County where people began streaming in this morning as the hurricane increased in intensity overnight with some very strong winds topping 150 miles per hour. That shelter, I'm told, can hold upwards of 1,000 people. They're expecting to see that easily this afternoon. People not only showing up with family members, but also animals trying to get out of the way of this big storm. We're told that teachers are volunteering over there along with a number of employees. here in Sarasota County. I got a chance to talk with the principal a short time ago.
Was up. We're now probably close to 550, and it's just nonstop with people coming in with their pets.
It's like last minute they're realizing they can't ride it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But we're super happy to be here, provide the service to our community.
And I'm kind of in a protected area right here, but if you look behind me there off in the distance, you can see the wind blowing the trees here. A number of them have come down. We've also seen the water begin to rise. It has been raining for more than 12 hours, and it's expected to only get worse as the day goes on. I've been told there are already tens of thousands of power outages here along the west coast of Florida. Back to you.
All right, Dave, thanks so much. We want to bring you live pictures right now from Collier County. Look at that wind blow right now. We can tell you this is, for those of you who don't know, in southwest Florida near the Naples area. But again, they are under some of their zones under a mandatory evacuation, Greg. But look at those winds.
Yeah, and you can see there, it looks like what would be a tiki or a shelter of some kind completely underwater. So the storm surge in Collier County giving us an example. And the folks in Sarasota, I'm not going to say that they are breathing a sigh of relief, but certainly earlier yesterday, Collier County and Sarasota in particular were considered right where the storm would make landfall. That is not the case. There are some 400,000 residents that call Collier County home, but Zone A that Martha mentioned right along the coast, mandatory evacuation. And because of that storm surge, which basically is the wind driving the waves. So don't think of a storm surge as, you know, a flood, but it's a flood of a water wall. It just raises the ocean up like a bathtub. And so instead of the water lapping on the sand, it starts to lap on buildings and streets inland because the ocean literally grows.
And right now, as we continue to watch these pictures and as we prepare for what's heading our way, we want to turn things over right now to our traffic anchor, Alexa Lorenzo. What do you have for us, Alexa?
So we've talked a lot about how dangerous the roads are right now with those slick conditions, putting Doppler 9 radar with live traffic tracker. You can see that rain coming down over our major highways. And this is causing people to get in very serious crashes. Take a look right here. This is the 429 heading northbound near Clarkona, Ocoee Road. This is now the second crash I have seen this afternoon where one of the cars involved has slid off to the side, and one of those cars hit a light pole there. So behind, they've zoomed out a little bit, but behind they have a lot of road rangers now working with that wreck and working with that down light pole through this area. So a heads up for you, if you are driving, please, please, please be careful. All law enforcement agencies have been stressing to get off the roads. And Martha, you mentioned the bridge closures, and that is so important over on the Gulf Coast. We have already seen the Sunshine Skyway Bridge shut down, and we will see that as Hurricane Ian continues to move into our area. When those sustained winds hit 39 miles per hour or above, they will shut down the bridges. So we've already received that notice from Daytona Shores that the Halifax River bridges, the bridges over it, they will shut down when those winds reach 39 miles per hour. It is not a chance to take. Stay in place and stay off the roads. We've got you covered.
Boy, Alexa, as I'm looking at this FHP website as well, I mean, it's accident after accident, and you're seeing debris in the roads, accident with injury. These are all recent that are coming in from the state of Florida. And Martha, we talked about these are called indirect deaths from the 10 deadliest storms to hit the U.S. And 60 of the 964 deaths were because of car crashes that people were out on the roads either prior to the storm or immediately after.
It's not the place you want to be with the high winds and the slick roads. So again, we're imploring you, please stay in your house. Do not be out on the roadway because it's just going to be so dangerous. We want to turn things over right now to our team of meteorologists who are live in Severe Weather Center right now. We have Tom Terry, the chief, monitoring everything. And what do you have, Tom?
Well, this is it. This is go time. Hopefully you're already in your safe location, but certainly by later tonight, the winds are really going to start to become more nonstop. You can still kind of get around a little bit right now, but we're watching the tornado threat, which will likely increase over the next few hours as the hurricane gets closer. Obviously, the flooding issues we're going to be talking with Rusty McCraney more about in a minute. Sustained tropical storm and hurricane force winds. This storm has such a large wind field, and as it makes landfall, probably as a marginal, or there's nothing marginal, but a 4/5, Cat 4 or 5, similar to the strength of Maria. Maria was 155 at landfall in Puerto Rico. This storm is going to continue to bring the threat for hurricane force winds all the way through to the coast, okay? It may be just in a gust and not a sustained, but it's going to be close. And so we have a lot of wind. We're going to get a lot of power outages. Cassie Cremy is here. She's going to talk you through more on that coming up as well. Right now, about 152 miles southwest of Orlando, and you can see the meat of the storm, if you will, is kind of on this western half, and we've had a little bit of dry air. It's humid, but not as rain-laden coming in here, and this may slightly help our flood overall numbers, but it's still going to bring a whole lot of rain because all this is coming our way. These are all hurricane impacts coming into the Captiva area, Boca Grande. This is very close to where Charlie made landfall, but Charlie's winds are just a little bit bigger than that box. See that little box right there? That was basically Charlie, okay? This is massive, okay? So lots of impacts through here. Landfall will be when the center point crosses the coast, probably in about an hour or so. We do have a tornado warning, new one out for Okeechobee County, so we'll be watching this moving into southeastern Polk, southern parts of Osceola. This little storm is probably going to start rotating. We already have some rotating cells right over here, so that'll be part of what we're going to be doing. We also have had some heavy rainfall. I believe it's 4 to 6 so far in Brevard County. Rusty will have more on that, but you can see the heavy rain Cocoa Beach moving up I-95. Right now it's just kind of breezy in Orlando. It's very tropical. It's extremely humid. It's a very unique feel if you've never been through this before, but it will become more heavy rain laden. We're watching for some kind of squalliness. When you get the rain, that's when you get the wind, generally when we come to a storm like this. So the track, okay, they had a hurricane hunter that hit so much turbulence over there. This is live view from Daytona Beach. Hit so much turbulence that it had to leave the storm. So they got another one coming through. This could strengthen to a 5 before landfall, but either way, the track is on track to bring it near our southern viewing area, Osceola, Polk County. That's going to be right around 8 a.m. in the morning. So we have all night tonight, first thing in the morning, and then tomorrow night moving offshore. So this is a marathon, not a race, is what we've been talking about all week. And that's why I think, especially on this western semicircle and to the north, that's where those heavy squalls are going to be rolling on through. And that's what our early warning future track model shows. This is 2 o'clock today. We start getting some of these outer squalls coming on through, lifting more toward the north. Now, our model is just a little bit faster and a little bit farther east than the official track, but generally by tonight, we're going to have a hurricane approaching from the south, getting closer to our southern viewing area. So the later in the day we go, especially when the sun goes down tonight, that's when I think we're really going to start feeling the effects down south and gradually shifting north. That's when your power is likely to go out for hopefully just a short period of time, but we may have extensive issues. 10 o'clock tonight. Our model actually has a storm over here. The official track is a little bit farther north, but splitting hairs here. It's such a big storm. That's what's key. Nothing has changed. This is not going to miss us, okay? So this is 3 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be windy. You're going to have some extra noise around your house you probably haven't heard before. That storm will move offshore tomorrow morning, and that's when the surge issues will continue along our beaches. When was the high tides? Roughly?
I believe 10 and 10, I believe.
10 and 10. So we'll have a high tide tonight around 10 o'clock in the morning. So we'll be building toward a high tide tomorrow along our beaches. So we already have storm surge warning along the coast. Again, here's our live view from Daytona. As the squalls continue and as our cameras stay operational, it's all power-based here. So we're going to continue to keep track of that. So that system, I think by tomorrow evening, we'll start to get most of this rain out by Friday. It should all be well offshore. And the rainfall totals, because we haven't had as much rain initially today, have been a little bit lower, but I still think we easily have 10, 12, 16 inches of rain, possibly up to 20 inches of rain coming on through. So that's going to be what we're tracking there. And you can see that storm surge alert down there, and also storm surge alert that goes all the way down toward the Rockledge area, where 3 to 5 feet of surge to the north from Daytona, where you see the camera right now. That's 3 to 5 extra feet of water. For comparison, Matthew was, I think, about 5 to 6. So not a Matthew, but we're still going to have some issues there with coastal flooding. Also, I'm watching out for flooding along the Indian River over here along Merritt Island, because it's river flooding in addition to ocean flooding for a lot of our coastal communities right there. County by county, then we're going to go talk to Rusty. Seminole County, your worst weather moves in late tonight as the hurricane force winds start moving through. We may not actually have a sustained 75. It may be 60, 65, but you're going to have some wind gusts up to hurricane strength. So it will be more extensive, I think, than Irma as far as as the winds, if you're trying to compare that to 5 years ago. Tornado risk and, of course, up to 20 inches of rain. This is Port Canaveral right now, and they've gotten all the cruise ships, so hopefully out of the way for this particular storm. I saw them leaving port last night. To the west, this is where I'm hopeful you'll see the least overall wind impact. There's still a large wind field. It's over 350 miles across when it gets here, so you're going to get tropical storm force winds. I don't know if you're actually going to get a hurricane gust, and that's okay, but this is still enough. This is like a long duration severe thunderstorm. We know what happens when those happen. We have power lines down, trees, etc. So about 5, maybe up to 12 inches of rain, depending on where the rain bands set up, and that's why we're here tracking this minute by minute for you. Lake County, you've already had a lot of rain in the preceding summer months, and now here we are with more heavy rain. Winds 55 to 75, that 15 inches of rain additional as the rain. It hasn't even begun to rain heavily yet, folks. A hurricane's going to move in. It'll rain heavy tonight, all night. And let's toss back to the anchors. We'll have more coming up.
Yeah, the governor right now is speaking to us from Tallahassee, we believe. Let's listen in right now. Do you have that live shot?
Is now making landfall in southwest Florida with winds of 155 miles per hour, and that is just shy of a Category 5 hurricane. 155-mile-an-hour winds are incredibly dangerous. There will be debris in the air and flooding powerful enough to move cars around. So please do not be outside during this storm. If you're in those southwest Florida counties, you need to be sheltering in place. Don't forget that Ian will produce hurricane-strength winds and massive floodings, not just where it makes the initial landfall, but throughout the state of Florida. So central and northeast Florida will also feel impacts. Now, while most people in the evacuations did leave, there were some that chose to stay. I was speaking with the sheriff down in Charlotte County, and while most people did leave, they had a small number of people that just wanted to hunker down. And at the end of the day, that's a decision they made, knowing that they had the ability to evacuate and knowing what the stakes were. Nevertheless, life safety operations will commence as soon as it's safe, to be able to identify people who may be in harm's way and who are in need of assistance. And Kevin will say, I'll say a little bit about that, but Kevin will say more. We'll also hear from FWC about their efforts that they have staged and ready to go. If you are still in southwest Florida, just please stay inside until the storm passes. It may appear to be calm at some point. You may just be in the eye of the storm, and the backside of that will get very, very nasty. The storm is expected to move across central Florida and exit Daytona Beach sometime on Thursday. We've already seen around the state tornado warnings issued far from where the hurricane is entering in southwest Florida, and those warnings will likely to continue until this finally leaves our state. So even if you're not in the direct path of the storm, you need to take all tornado warnings seriously, and you need to take appropriate precautions if that is happening in your area. The Florida Department of Transportation has just announced that Fort Drum, Canoe Creek, and Turkey Lake service plazas on Florida Turnpike are now closed. Obviously, they will try to get those open as soon as they can. We have 200,000 power outages reported throughout the state of Florida, but outside of southwest Florida, crews are working to quickly restore power. Of course, 200,000 is a drop in the bucket for what's going to happen over the next 24 to 48 hours. There's going to be widespread power outages, particularly in southwest Florida. We have over 100 portable cell towers ready to be deployed into the area once it is safe to enter. Once the storm is passed and it is safe to go outside, you still need to be cautious. Avoid down power lines, standing water. Stay clear of downed trees, and don't drive in standing water. And please, if you're going to use a generator for your home, do not allow that to be inside. The exhaust needs to be outdoors. Stay out of the way of emergency crews, out of flood waters, and away from all down power lines. Stay off the roads. There's no need to rush back. You're going to have a massive surge of people that are going to be going in to provide, of course, life safety assistance for those who may have stayed in some of the more hazardous areas. You're also going to have power workers going in. We were just in Lake City. I was thinking we had all these power workers, these line workers from all these different states. I saw from Texas, Louisiana, all these different places stage. We have a massive, massive mobilization. Their job is to get in there and help to restore services. You're also going to have folks bringing in things like food and water. So there's no need to rush back in. There's going to be a lot going on in the immediate aftermath, and a lot of people's safety depends on that. If you're on the roads, you're putting yourself in danger and limiting the ability of emergency crews to restore power and clean debris. Now, we don't know how much debris is going to be, but there's going to be debris, and that's going to make it very difficult to navigate some of these roads. That's why FDOT's immediate mission is to clear the roadways so that people are able to go in and access that to be able to help deliver services for people. In 2019, we were projected to be hit by Hurricane Dorian, which was a Category 5 storm. Fortunately, at the last minute, it took a northward turn and missed the coast, but we did have a really massive mobilization. This mobilization's exceeded that. This is a really, really significant effort, county level, state level, federal support. It's really been impressive to see. Director Guthrie has asked for additional airlift, hoist, and high water vehicles from DOD in coordination with FEMA. The Secretary of Defense has approved Florida's request for dual status of our National Guard forces under Title 10 to provide additional forces, which we very much appreciate. We will also be submitting momentarily a major disaster declaration for all 67 counties, and we'll request that the federal government reimburse 100% of the upfront costs for the first 60 days to ensure that we can quickly recover and move forward into the response and recovery part. And if you think about this storm, we had storms that have been as strong as this hit Florida? Michael, Hurricane Andrew, Labor Day hurricane many, many decades ago. Yes. Have we had big storms that left a lot of water and flooding? We had Irma recently. This is really bringing both to the table. I mean, you're going to have massive amount of power hitting that coastline with really, really strong winds. That is going to do a lot of wind damage. But you also have the storm is so massive, and people are kind of comparing this to the track that Charlie took in 2004, because Charlie was like this, was expected to hit Tampa Bay. It turned and ended up hitting Southwest Florida. Charlie was strong, but it was a fraction of the size of what we're dealing with here with Hurricane Ian. So the effects of this are going to be broad, and we appreciate the Biden administration's consideration for the people of Florida during this time of need. When I was in Lake City, you had massive numbers of linemen, but you have those staged all over the state. There's now over 42,000 linemen and other personnel ready to restore power in 30 different areas across the state. And those linemen and other associated personnel hail from, of course, many from Florida, but from 27 different states. Of course, our Department of Transportation does have 1,200 personnel on standby to perform cut and toss operations, understanding how important it is to get those roadways clear as soon as possible. Supplies will be brought in by plane, boat, and by high water vehicle. Airports in Southwest Florida do have teams behind, and they are going to work to clear those runways as soon as the storm has passed. We appreciate the Florida National Guard's really impressive mobilization of over 5,000 folks, as well as 2,000 additional guardsmen from other states. They have 9 Chinook helicopters ready to go, and additional 22 helicopters will be coming in after landfall that will be here within the next 24 hours. Kevin will talk a little bit more about this, but we have the 5 urban search and rescue teams. You'll hear from FWC about what they're doing, high water vehicles from Florida Highway Patrol, and of course our Coast Guard partners. There is going to be a massive effort as soon as it passes Southwest Florida to be able to get out, recon the area, and identify areas where there may be a need of rescue services. And some of these counties obviously know where residents decided to hunker down in, so they're going to be looking there first. But this is going to be really, really important to be able to get, I think in Hurricane Michael, I mean, it took a few days to be able to get into Mexico Beach. We have the air assets to be able to recon and know where the response efforts need to go. And so in total, we have nearly 250 aircraft, more than 1,600 high water vehicles, and more than 300 boats of all drafts and sizes, including 250 already in the major impacted areas, and nearly 50 that are staged and ready to come in as needed. These include smaller rescue-oriented boats, airboats, and larger boats that will be delivering supplies by water if need be. I want to thank the 26 states that have sent us support, including Tennessee, Virginia, Montana, New York, Colorado, Indiana, New Jersey, and Georgia. I just spoke with Kay Ivey from Alabama, and she's supporting sending some Black Hawk helicopters down to help. Governor Bill Lee in Tennessee fast-tracked a request that we had from Tennessee. We appreciate that. I was also just able to speak with John Bell Edwards from Louisiana. They've helped us, but he said, hey, we've got a lot of experience in hurricanes recently, so these guys are good. Ask us. We want to send more. And so we really appreciate that consideration. And if we need that, we certainly will do that. We also understand that people that are displaced are going to need assistance. So the Department of Economic Opportunity has already deployed funding and guidance through community action agencies to help Floridians in need of short-term support, like utilities, hotel bills, and transportation, if they have been displaced by this storm. Please continue to monitor local reports, weather reports. Be very cautious about going out into hazardous conditions. And then once the storm passes your area, just make sure that you're very careful, because there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of hazards that are going to be down on the ground. I know there's a lot of people that have reached out. First of all, I want to say thanks. A lot of people have offered thoughts and prayers for the folks that are in the eye of this storm, and that means a lot to us. There's also people that want to be able to do their part, and so I've directed Volunteer Florida to activate the Florida Disaster Fund, where people can donate. It's much better to donate financially rather than sending items. We have everything we need in terms of the immediate response needs, but there will be thousands of Floridians who will need help rebuilding. And to contribute to the disaster fund, you can visit www.floridadisasterfund.org or text disaster to 20222. Again, that's text disaster to 20222. For those who want to come volunteer, we have an official volunteer portal at Volunteer Florida, and that's at www.volunteerflorida.org, www.volunteerflorida.org, and you can look to see of the volunteer opportunities. This is going to be a rough patch here for the rest of today and into tomorrow. But we understand how significant this storm is. Yes, there'll be an immediate response. Yes, there will be things that happen with recovery. Eventually, there won't be much media attention on this as the weeks and months go on. But we understand a storm of this magnitude is going to require an effort over an extended period of time. Those are good folks down in Southwest Florida. They've got really great, thriving communities. This is not anything anyone wants to deal with. It's not something we certainly ask for, but we're going to step up. We're going to be there for folks, and we're going to make sure that folks get back on their feet, and Southwest Florida comes back better than ever. Okay, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. As the governor said, Hurricane Ian is approaching landfall as a Category 4 storm with winds of 155 miles per hour in Lee and Charlotte counties. At this time, the division has received nearly 1,000 resource requests from our impacted local partners, and 864 of those are either in process or completed. We are working as quickly as we can to address the needs of those impacted areas. This morning, I talked with each and every local emergency manager in the direct path of the storm. If you are sheltering in place in the path of the storm, we're asking you to now please visit floridadisaster.org/info and fill out our shelter in place survey. Again, that is floridadisaster.org/info to fill out our shelter in place survey. The shelter in place survey is designed to provide critical information to first responders about the demographics of your household so that they can aid your families as soon as possible. This is primarily for those who did not evacuate, so that we know where you're at. This is not a substitute for 911. If you have an immediate need and you need first responder assistance, you need to dial 911. Please understand that those 911 services may not be able to come to you right now, but again, if you need emergency services, dial 911. Even if it is calm outside, you may be in the eye of the storm. I encourage our individuals near Sanibel, near that Fort Myers area, as the eye wall starts to come on shore, if everything stops, the storm is not over. If you can hear us, if you can see us on your TV, you're most likely to have bright, sunshiny area here very soon. You're in the eye of the storm. Stay inside. Stay indoors. Do not go outside. You do not know when that eye wall will collapse. So please stay safe. Avoid down power lines and down trees and standing water when it is over. Use extreme caution. If you see any type of line, do not cut them. Do not cut fiber optic lines. Fiber optics are the backbone of our communication system that allows us to have connectivity for your cellular devices on wireless networks. It provides access to the internet. It provides access to social media. Please do not cut fiber optic lines. To the communities beginning to experience these devastating impacts of Hurricane Ian, know that the state of Florida is standing with you. We have plenty of resources to respond to your need. We have thousands of boats on the ground. We have thousands of boots on the ground. We're ready to assist you. We will make sure that all available resources are used to help you through this difficult time. Please do everything you can right now to stay safe. Thank you, Governor, very much for your for the opportunity to be here and be your director.
Thank you. All right, Colonel Roger Young, the Director of the Division of Law Enforcement, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Director, for your leadership and support as always, but especially during these trying times. So on behalf of the FWC, I'm Colonel Roger Young, and know that the men and women of the FWC send our prayers and support to all those in the path of the storm at this time. But also know that the FWC officers across the state are prepared, trained, and ready for a full response to this storm. We have 100 officers outside of the affected area ready to respond with high water vehicles and specialized equipment and vessels. We also have 250 vessels staged already inside the affected area that will be ready and utilized for response to this storm. So just know that we appreciate all the support that we're getting, but officers will be ready to respond in this time. Just want to say thanks to everyone, and the FWC officers will be ready for response. Thank you.
Okay, Agency for Healthcare Administration, we have our Secretary, Simone Marstiller.
Governor, thank you very much for your leadership. Director Guthrie, you as well. Good afternoon. As the eye of Hurricane Ian makes landfall, all healthcare facilities have made the necessary preparations and stand ready for Ian's impact. Since the beginning of the emergency, our agency has been focused on the safety and well-being of residents and patients and hospitals and long-term care facilities. We've activated the health facility reporting system, and we've requested and still do request that all healthcare facilities continue to report their census, their available beds, their evacuation status, and their generator status information. And that includes even facilities that might be outside of the impacted areas, because we need to be sure that we can provide the necessary resources to assist everyone when the time comes for response and recovery. As of today, ACA's teams have coordinated with our licensed healthcare facilities in evacuating more than 7,000 patients and residents from 150 facilities. Additionally, our team has activated the Emergency Patient Lookup System, or E+. This system allows special needs shelters in impacted areas to retrieve patient medical records and help medical providers and emergency response personnel to locate missing or displaced persons after the storm. We also have nearly 400 ambulances, paratransit buses, and support vehicles standing by to respond to the areas of impact. In addition to ACA's team's regular visits to all of our licensed healthcare facilities, We have completed more than 343 additional on-site visits to our nursing homes and assisted living facilities within the cone of expectance to verify generator compliance in response to Hurricane Ian. Today, and I know you've heard the governor say this over the last few days, but 100% of our operating long-term care facilities have generators on site. We've also worked very closely with our partners at the Florida Hospital Association, the Florida Healthcare Association and Leading Age, Florida Senior Living, and the Florida Assisted Living Associations. And we've activated, working with them, the Patient Movement Mission. We know that facilities are currently bracing for impact as Hurricane Ian is anticipated to make landfall here shortly. Following the storm, the Agency for Healthcare Administration stands ready to immediately deploy our surveyors for on-site visits to the impacted facilities. During these visits, we will ensure that each facility is maintaining an appropriate temperature for residents and that all other conditions in those facilities are safe for residents. If you are a patient or resident or family member of someone in one of our long-term care facilities or any other healthcare facility, and you experience any issues during the storm that are related to that facility or your stay there or the service, please know that you can lodge a complaint with the Agency for Healthcare Administration on our website, and that's ahca.myflorida.com, using our online complaint portal. If you are a licensed healthcare provider and experience any issues during the storm, please, of course, notify your local emergency manager, but also please report through our health facility reporting system immediately so that we know exactly what your status is and what we need to do to provide you the resources and help that you need. Moving forward, the agency will continue to require these kinds of status reports for power outages, bed availability, and other needs. This has truly been a collaborative effort, and I and my team appreciate all of the work that our agency partners have been putting in. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. So as we see power outages accumulate over the next day, 2 days, the crews that are assembled, massive numbers of people, one of the first orders of business, restore power, fuel, all the essentials. Not every power outage is going to be created equal across the state over the next 2 days. When you have a storm coming in at 155 miles an hour, that's not just going to knock down a few power lines. Yeah, it's going to do that, but it also has the potential to really uproot a lot of the infrastructure that makes people connected and that is used to deliver power to people. And so that will just require a reconstruction of that. And that's something that can be done, but it's not as easy as just simply hooking up a down power line back into place. And so as you get more severe wind impacts, more powerful storm, the storm surge, that's where you're in jeopardy of seeing a lot of that infrastructure disrupted in a way that will require more than just simply rehooking it. It's also the case that you may have homes and or businesses that are not going to be able to take the power because of changes to what's happened to their structures. So just keep that in mind. The folks that are staged are mindful of those different things. They want to get in as soon as possible, assess the damage, and help do the restoration efforts. Some of that may just be typical repair, but some of it may be more in the line of reconstruction. So just be prepared for that. I mean, we've been saying that there was going to be, significant power outages with a storm of this magnitude. That's just the reality. So it's going to pass today from Southwest Florida. As soon as it's safe to go in, there's going to be people. I've already talked to a lot of the locals. They know where they need to look to see the damage assessments, to look to see where people may be in harm's way. Obviously, folks at the state level are going to be doing the same thing, and it's important. And we want to make sure, obviously, save people that may need to be rescued, but then get these services started again, because we need to get people back on their feet as soon as possible. Okay, with that, I'll take some questions.
Governor, you mentioned that there were some people that have chosen not to stay, that lived in that were staying in evacuation areas. Do you have any sense?
That chose to stay, you mean?
That chose to stay even though they're in evacuation areas. Do you have any sense as to how many people that is? I know you're doing a survey.
Well, that's voluntary in terms of who wants to participate in that. I just spoke with the Charlotte County Sheriff, which is, of course, going to be probably ground zero for this landfall. And it's their view that the vast majority of people in that Zone A did, in fact, evacuate. Now, they have an island community where they had 31 people that were told, were offered, the transit, and they just said that they wanted to stay and shelter in place. And so I know a lot of those barrier island communities, the counties discontinued services, so they were incentivized to get in maybe a more comfortable environment. But some of those people just made that decision to stay, and they, the local officials were not going to grab them by the shirt collar and drag them out of their own house. And so they did that. And look, we've been saying that if you're in an evacuation zone, once that order is made, you're risking potentially your life by staying, and people did that. Nevertheless, as much as you may disagree with that decision, if there's people in harm's way when this storm passes that need help, we're going to be out there helping folks. I mean, that's just the way we're going to do it. And I know that the folks down there in Charlotte and the surrounding counties feel the same way. And there's a lot of resources that have been brought to bear to do just that. Yep, go ahead.
At this point, Governor, have you heard anything about, and I know it's early, so it's probably too soon to tell, but no fatalities, any serious injuries, anything like that associated with this storm?
Kevin, I have not gotten a report on that yet.
We did have 2 people transported to the Tornadic. Question for Secretary Marsteller. Of those 150 facilities, how many of them were hospitals, and do you have a sense of how many patients within those hospitals that would encompass?
The most recent information that I have, 15 hospitals evacuated, and that amounts to roughly 350 patients. Yeah.
It's interesting. Of course, you guys have been following the track. I mean, it was going to be maybe North Florida, then the Tampa. People were talking about one of the worst case scenarios. Of course, it's gone down. My view on that is wherever it hits, if you're in that community, it's probably worst case scenario for you. So I don't necessarily use those. But when it was the Tampa, I spoke with the CEO of Tampa General, and they have a fortification system of their hospital that can withstand like 10, 15 feet of storm surge. And so they do that so that they can keep the patients there, because if you don't have that and you're in a low-lying area, you got to do the evacuations. A number of the hospital systems have done that, who were in those low-lying areas. I think particularly in the Tampa area, I know we had a lot of special needs evacuations, as we should have. I mean, you got to take the information that you have, and they're going to feel effects from this. But my hope is that those patients are going to be able to be brought back as soon as that storm is passed. And I don't anticipate major structural damage. Would be my hope in some of those areas.
Again, you've been listening to the latest briefing with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and team. Kevin Guthrie, Director of Florida Division of Emergency Management, underlining a couple of things that are telling to me with experience covering these hurricanes, the amount of equipment that is staged and ready to go, including airlift hoist, because, again, a lot of folks are in the path of this storm. And they talk about these categories, Martha. It's the Sapphire-Simpson scale. It was developed to tell you basically what strength a storm is. And I'm going to put something up on the screen that's going to kind of show you, because you heard Director Guthrie talking about, a Category 5 and a Category 4. Right now, it's a Category 4 storm with sustained winds at 155 miles per hour. As you can see, Cat 5 is 156, so just a couple of miles per hour greater would put this into Hurricane Andrew-like category, and Category 5 would be complete devastation according to the Sapphire-Simpson. Very heavy and irreparable damage. Only a few types of structures would actually survive, and only those that are within 3 to 5 miles that are inland would be okay. Cat 4 is long-lived electrical and water losses, and of course massive damage to manufactured homes. So again, those categories are important, and they're also important for us, because it looks like we're talking about here Category 1.
We are, and when you were talking about Andrew, 65 people died with Andrew, and there was $27.3 billion in damage with that storm alone. And live down there, it's taken decades to get back to where they were prior to Hurricane Andrew. So again, we're talking about a Cat 1. Let's turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. So we're talking what, a heavy rainstorm here and winds and flooding and...
Imagine an enormous severe thunderstorm that lasts for 12 or 18 hours. Okay.
There you go.
That's what it's going to be. It's not going to be this. This is going to weaken once it moves on shore, as they always do. But right now, it is a very top-end Cat 4, the same official land speed, or the speed as we had from Maria when it hit the southeast coast of Puerto Rico. And this is the rough center of the storm. When the center crosses the coast near Captiva, that's the official landfall, but it's close. We've already had some wind gusts over 112 miles an hour. And frankly, we probably have higher reports, but we're losing infrastructure. You're losing power. These sensors are just not reporting, etc. So the newest info, it's making landfall. They may upgrade this to a 5. I'm not sure. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's a big storm tracking north-northeast, central Florida. When's it going to hit here? That's your question to me, right? Tonight. This is going to be all evening, overnight, in the morning, afternoon, and evening tomorrow, exiting the state. So we have about 30 hours of dealing with this as it gets closer tonight. The worst weather, again, will be arriving here a little bit later. This is the official track, and again, it brings it on shores of 4. This is tonight at sunset, southeast of Sarasota. So the heaviest winds are still down south, but they're starting to move north, and we'll get to the squalls that we'll be dealing with. This is 8 a.m. right over Kissimmee. The municipal airport, the Oakside Division, all the way up through Hunters Creek, Celebration. Very strong tropical storm, but just right on that edge of being a hurricane still. And folks, there's so much wind in the storm itself, it's just not going to blow itself out. This is really going to be blowing through with a lot of wind all the way through, and that is 8 p.m. Thursday night off the coast of Daytona. So this is kind of what I'm expecting here. In a Cat 1, winds up to 95 miles an hour. We're going to have some roof issues. You're going to lose screens. I lost 5 or 6 screen panels on my pool during Irma. This will likely have more wind than that. Damage to siding. Of course, power lines, expect to lose power. Start getting ready, because that's probably going to happen tonight. And that may last for, hopefully, not days, but I have a feeling some areas will. So full hurricane preps. We're going to get those sustained conditions again later on for tonight. Again, we do have this hurricane warning out for the entire area, including Volusia County. And this is new. Rusty, we were talking about this coming in as I kind of got up to speed from taking a brief nap last night, that they extended that hurricane warning all the way over to the coast. And we can see some of those cameras live. It's pretty squally already.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom, no doubt about it. Look, we've had a lot of heavier rain along the coastline as well. And again, that's where we've also had a couple of tornado warnings down in Indian River County and in southeast sides of Osceola. Tom, you were mentioning some of the wind gusts, and we are going to be monitoring those winds as they move into southwest portions of the state near Sanibel Island, near Captiva. Naples, a resort there, had a wind gust of 112 miles an hour. Sanibel Island, 107, and Redfish Pass right around 100 miles an hour. So we've had 3 reported wind gusts at or above 100 miles an hour. And a lot of these stations end up losing power before they even hit their peak wind gusts. Pressure is dropping there again. Landfall is imminent near Sanibel and Captiva. So the one aspect that I've been closely monitoring is the rain, okay? We have several models that are running right now. The GFS model has always been the most robust with these rainfall totals, showing you that, and again, we hope this doesn't verify around the area, but 1 to potentially 2 feet of rain more than likely will undercut this just a little bit, we hope. But again, the GFS has been very persistent on bringing some extremely heavy, potentially, historic rainfall totals to portions of Central Florida. This would obviously bring a lot of river flooding, but inland flooding as well, including urban areas that don't typically flood. You're going to find out if you live in a spot that might actually flood with some of these higher totals we're expecting. The European model is a little bit lower in general. A couple of reasons reasons why, actually. One is the center of circulation is a little bit farther east on the European model, but the other aspect is it ingests a little bit of drier air at the end, so it cuts off the heavier rain just a little bit earlier, but you're still looking at 8, 10, maybe up to a foot of rain in some spots. This is our 3 different models running right now for the Orlando forecast as I take you into Friday and early on Saturday. And you can see the differences we're talking about, 8 to 9 on the European model and our IBM in-house model, but up to 19 on the GFS. So the GFS has been kind of doubling the rainfall totals of the other models, except the IBM brings a healthy foot-plus inch of rain to Daytona Beach. And again, our eastern areas are going to get very wet. As a matter of fact, the heaviest rainfall so far in Central Florida has been in Brevard County. We've had some areas of 5 to 8 inches of rain already as those feeder bands have been moving on shore with some rotation. So that's the other and more immediate aspect of what could be happening in Central Florida soon is we continue with our tornado threat. Tornado watch continues for Seminole, Orange, Polk, Osceola, and Brevard counties until 5 p.m., potentially extended into our northern areas later as Ian gets a little bit closer. But again, inherently speaking, with this hurricane, we have rotating storms. So that tornado threat, Tom, is going to be with us for the next several days. So we'll keep an eye on that. And again, the rainfall rates, as you've mentioned, really picking up later tonight.
That's right. Yeah, we've had the heavy rain through here. We're already starting to lose power, and we're going to have a lot of us lose power again later tonight. If you're just tuning into coverage, the worst of the hurricane about ready to make landfall. It will weaken probably a strong Cat 1 over Polk, Osceola, weakening to a strong tropical storm near Metro Orlando, but a very, very large wind field with this. And Cassandra Kramer, you've been looking at the power outages here, and this, we cannot underestimate, this is going to be another huge problem for us starting tonight.
That's right, Tom. I was taking a look over at the Duke Energy website as well as the Florida Power and Light websites, trying to just keep a tabs on some of the power outages that have already started to happen. And when I made this graphic about 40 minutes ago, at that moment in time, Duke Energy had about 22,000 without power, most of which were over in the St. Pete, Tampa area. I had to update it just before coming on air here up to 31,000, and we know that number is going to continue to grow. Now, Florida Power and Light, it covers a big portion of South Florida. The latest number that I saw coming out is almost 300,000 people are without power at this current time. And again, we're going to see that number expand as we head through the day today and as we head into our evening, because I've been showing you this. You can see the center of the storm there. This is kind of a modeled analysis of where we are expected or likely to get power outages. And you can see that pushing into parts of Central Florida, into Orange County as we head into our evening hours. And we actually had Alexa Lorenzo put in this for our Spanish-speaking population, so you're aware of the information where power outages are likely as we head into the evening hours, and you really want to have those devices charged and ready to go. And she actually recorded something. We're throwing it over on the WFTV Facebook page, so you can find it there. So as we continue to move forward, if you don't lose power, consider yourself lucky, but expect to lose it. So with that, make sure you download our WFTV News and Weather app. Not a plug, but it's a free app, and it's going to give you very important and potentially life-saving information as we take you through the remainder of the day today, through the overnight, and through the day tomorrow. We here at WFTV, we are all here. We're going to be running on generators even if we lose power, and we will continue to feed out that information for you so you can keep you, your family, and your property safe. But through the storm, just check in with your family and friends, neighborhoods really gathering together. Keep doing that. But as the storm's happening, close your doors, close your windows, stay inside, and really stay away from those windows. And you heard Greg Wormuth, if you've been watching us, really mention that the best place to sleep tonight may not be your bedroom. It may be your kids' room. It may be the living room. It may be a totally different space that you did not expect to throw an air mattress or move mattresses for this evening. But that might be what you have to do as we head through the overnight tonight. Now, after the storm, if you lose power, which again you most likely will, you'll be able to hopefully continue to get some of our alerts and even our streaming broadcasts on those mobile devices. Keep them charged. But some information in case you don't have that access. Stay away from the debris. Give it some time. I know a lot of people think that the storm is over, you can head out. Give it some time, and again, get the crews and the workers, all the people that are geared up to help after the storm, let them get out and do their job and clean things up so it's safe for the rest of us. Also, you're going to want to avoid standing water and down power lines. A lot of injuries and even deaths from these storms come actually after the storm themselves, when we start to get a little too antsy. And surprisingly, a lot of these deaths also come from generators. If you're going to use a portable generator, use them wisely, use them safely. And the key with that, you don't want that generator indoors. They produce fumes when it's burning off that fossil fuel. You want to have it outside, running a cord into your home. And again, even if it's outside close to a window that's open, if you're running a cord through that window, the fumes can still get into your home. We've seen that happen before. So again, keep it at a safe space away from your home, windows and outside. And again, document any of that damage as we move forward. That's only going to help you and potentially have less of a headache as we recover from the damage that we're potentially going to see from Hurricane Ian. But again, we're going to continue to keep an eye on those power outages. We're going to continue to keep an eye on this massive storm, and we're going to do what we can to help you keep you and your family safe. Tom.
All right, thanks a lot, Cassie, for that. And great tips there. A lot of us are going to lose power tonight. Quick update on the storm itself. It is getting very, very close to the Captiva area for a landfall. Very, very close to where Charlie made landfall 18 years ago when I was covering this. But the huge difference here is the huge difference. It is so much larger. You could take all of Charlie's winds and fit it right there in the eye and still have room for about 2 or 3 more. So that's how big this sucker is, and it's coming through. This is going to continue to weaken as it moves farther to the north. And this is when the center points, it looks like we're probably within a few minutes of landfall here. We're going to start losing some of our sensors here, but the wind gusts have been over 112 miles per hour. Locally, we have some squally weather. Now it's starting to come through, okay? So it's going to be for the rest of the day into tonight. These squally bands coming through Titusville, Cocoa Beach. We're starting to see these little swirly icons on here. This is just an algorithm running in the background that kind of says, hey, we're watching this. So that kind of gives us a point of reference to know we're kind of watching for a little bit of spin. Nearly everything is rotating. We're going to probably get some more tornado warnings. There's a watch in effect till 5 that may be extended later on through. So as it makes landfall, it's going to track through. The later in the night we get, the worse the weather is going to be. And I do want to get to a couple of counties here, as we do have conditions that will be different for every county, but just about all of us are certainly going to feel at least strong tropical storm. And I talked about it with the anchors a moment ago. Imagine this is just like an enormous severe thunderstorm with winds of 60 to say 75 miles an hour that last for 12 or 18 hours. That's kind of what this is going to be like. Seminole County, the worst weather after sunset tonight, overnight, and the last of it probably not till tomorrow late night. That's why I think these rain totals are going to keep adding up here, over 12 to 20 inches. We hope it's not that high. Winds 50 to 75, of course, early tornado threat to the west. Only tropical storm conditions are expected. You'll have some pretty high gusts depending on exactly where the eye or the center of the storm comes through. The storm will be filling in and weakening as it makes landfall. That's the only positive that we have, but it will have a very large wind field as it comes on through. So your worst weather will be late tonight and also for tomorrow. Lake County, lots of rain. Right around 5 o'clock or so, we'll really start feeling the winds coming in from the south to the north. The winds 50 to 75. We could have a hurricane wind gust over there. That's why you have this hurricane warning in effect. 15 inches of rain. The rain's going to be hard to pinpoint. You know how this goes. It depends on where the outer bands swirl through, but we're all going to have a lot of rain, probably way too much. Orange County, by 5 o'clock tonight. We wanted you home by 9 o'clock this morning. If you're still out and around, definitely get in by early tonight, because that's when the winds are going to start to be more sustained. Emergency crews are not going to be able to get out and do their normal job, perhaps. Flooding risk, again, will be the overall problem for a lot of us through the start of tomorrow. Hurricane warning in effect for Sumter County and to Osceola County, not Sumter, Osceola. 8 to 12 inches of rain there. And just in general along the coast, let's talk coast for just a minute, because this is going to get off of our coast by Thursday night and Friday, and perhaps start to regenerate a little bit, and we're going to have a prolonged period. We're going to go from having a Gulf hurricane to an Atlantic tropical storm, trying to perhaps regain a little bit of strength. I don't think it'll become a hurricane again. I hope not, but we're going to get surge coming up through here. We already have up to 2 to 4 feet of surge expected up in the Palm Coast area through Flagler Beach and all the way down, some river flooding. We were just over there along the Indian River watching one of the Artemis attempts, and it's a lot of folks over there, so make sure you are watching the river levels as they rise, and a high risk for some flooding area. In fact, the Weather Prediction Center, they issue all of the rain advisories around the country. They still have, I believe, a high risk for flash flooding. I wish I had more better news, guys, but at least it's not going to be a Cat 4 over us. It's still probably going to be a Cat 1 moving into Polk and Osceola. That'll be late tonight and overnight.
And again, important to say that it's going to be a 12 to 18 hour massive thunderstorm for us.
Yeah, you know, it's going to take, like I said, it's probably around sunset tonight. The winds will start to become more, and then overnight tonight, and then in the morning, and then in the afternoon, and this thing will gradually start to move on out, but it's going to take its time. It's moving at about 8 miles an hour. Charlie was moving at 25 miles an hour. So much smaller, but much faster. This one is much, much larger and slower. So a lot more impact.
And a lot wetter.
A lot wetter, yeah.
And we've had a very rainy summer, Tom. So in terms of, you know, a lot of those retention areas that can withstand the rain, they're already full in many instances.
That's right, and that's why Mayor Demi was talking yesterday for Orange County about the fact that if you did have some flooding here in just the last couple of months or so, or perhaps you had flooding during Irma, more than likely you're going to end up with some flooding issues. And one other graphic I wanted to show you, this yellow big circle, that is the tropical storm force wind field. So that's a really gusty wind that just encompasses the whole state. And this area here, that's going to be our hurricane force wind field that will be shrinking a little bit, but it's going to be pretty substantial as it moves into Polk and Osceola. This circle is a severe thunderstorm. Think of that. A big, blobulous, severe thunderstorm wind field that will come all the way up and through. And when this happens, guys, what do we see? We see power outages, we see trees down, we see all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, because if you think about a tropical storm force wind sustained, that takes you right to 73 miles per hour. And they'll be gusting possibly as high as 80. How do we put that into perspective in terms of how our infrastructure, and what I mean by infrastructure, our power lines? Because at the end of the day, once a power line is knocked down, then it's prioritized, then the crews have to get out when it's safe to put that back up, and they have to string all the lines. And this is a prolonged power outage event potentially.
Yeah, if you lose power tonight, they're likely not going to be able to get out and start repairing it until we get to tomorrow night.
Right, because the crews have to be able to go out when things are safe. And don't forget, the roads also have to be clear. You heard the governor say how FHP is going to be ready and FDOT will be ready, because those roads have to get cleared up with whatever debris is out there so that these crews can get your power. So we're going to have to pack some patience, especially our viewers. It's not going to be a quick fix necessarily.
Yeah, it's hot out.
It's hot out, and you know.
Yeah, we're getting close to landfall here. And
so how do we compare? You talk about landfall, and we just know those poor folks down in Captiva, Fort Myers, some of the most beautiful beaches that you could ever go to. You know, I love Sanibel Island. I feel like it's our own little personal Hawaii if we ever go down there, and it's only about, I don't know, 3 miles wide or something. It's not a very big piece of land, and it was split in two by Charlie. But if this is a Cat 4/Cat 5 in the Andrew range, and we know what Andrew did back in 1992, are we talking about when they fly over that this entire area looks like what Andrew did?
Do you remember, well, Andrew, you remember Michael most recently?
I flew over Michael in the helicopter.
You flew over Michael.
Yeah.
What did you see? I mean, the winds were perhaps a little bit higher with that. It was a 5. But I want to show you, this is the wind
I've flown over every hurricane we have had since 2004, and Michael, to me, was the one that just, the way it wiped out that Mexico City Beach area and all that.
Yeah, especially the older structures, okay? The pre-Andrew building codes were not nearly as substantial. The older structures are not going to do very well with this at all. We have a lot of wealthy structures through here, and they perhaps are built to withstand a hurricane like this, so they'll have kind of more peripheral impacts, perhaps. But the wind field with this, that's like 45-mile center of the storm, but this is the eye wall coming all the way up and through. This kind of a white color over here is probably well over 130, 140 miles an hour offshore shooting from the radar. So this is a big problem all the way south of Sarasota, all the way through Sanibel. Again, beautiful areas. I've been over there.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, and
we're talking a wall of water coming through for people who haven't seen it, haven't lived through it. I mean, this is just going to be an onslaught of water for those.
Yeah, you know, this whole 15 feet of surf, well, 10 to 12, 5 to 10 rather for Tampa. Verify that, but someone did ask me, can we talk about why the water levels are dropping over in Tampa Bay? It's because the winds are blowing offshore. All right, so this happened also during Maria, or during Irma, rather. Irma, 5 years ago, we had reports over by Tampa Bay where the water was out of the bay and people were standing in the muck and it said, get out because the water's coming on back through.
2017, that was a Cat 3.
Yeah, and but as it approached the lower Keys, it was a 4. So we know what Irma did to the Keys. Okay, so we've had lots of recent examples. Unfortunately, this is okay. So this is Collier County. So we're down kind of in the midst of this, down where the center of it is. But this
will be the second landfall for Hurricane Ian. Of course, it made landfall in Cuba, so it'll make the second pass here. What are we thinking right now, Tom? How soon until we have the official date and time?
It's close. The eye is so big. It's when the center point crosses the coast. So we have an advisory coming up here soon. They may call it at 2, but generally they'll call it when they see it. But this is going to move right through. And folks, again, this is where the worst weather is right here. This is just going to keep marching north, 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 and bend a little bit over here. So it will weaken. This will not be a Cat 4 over Orlando. This will be a Cat 1 mainly for Polk, Osceola, but that's why they had the hurricane warnings to go all the way over to Volusia County. So,
and if you're in Volusia right now, we see that banding weather already ripping up the surf. We've seen the cameras in Daytona Beach, Tom. We're talking significant surge there. And if you're along, say, the Indian River Lagoon, we've all been out on that, that water's going to rise as well. And some people in New Smyrna told me that they anticipate water into their condos just by the lifting of the Indian River.
Yeah, and we talked about that. We were just over there on the Indian River, and it is a very pristine waterway, but we are physically pushing. The winds aren't as gusty now, but later on tonight as this storm approaches, we're going to be pushing water not only from the Atlantic onshore, not the surge they're getting along the Gulf Coast. We're probably talking 2 to 4 feet, which is still substantial.
And don't forget the tides play into all of this, too.
The high tides, 10 o'clock tonight. And then 10 o'clock in the morning. So we'll have a little bit of a high tide issue tonight. And then as this gets offshore heading into early Friday morning, we will have this rolling on by. So again, the worst timing is tonight, overnight, and tomorrow. And we can see some of these outer bands. See how this has a little bit of a curve to it? That is spin, all right? So these are all spinning. Every single one of these rascals is spinning. This one coming here, spinning, spinning, spinning. So we're going to be watching out for these fast-moving, free spin-up tornadoes, but it's going to be in the midst of a squall. So you're not just, it's not like in the open plains where you see a tornado in the distance, oh, there it is. This is going to be in the middle of a whole bunch of rain. So make sure, again, that you're inside, that you're in the safe area of your home. Stay away from windows. We're going to take you through this hour by hour as it comes by, but this is a marathon of coverage, and the rain squalls are just starting, and that's why the heavy rainfall totals will be excessive.
And Brevard County, just most recently, Tom, has had so much rain. I'm trying to make certain that I focus on all of our major counties here, but in Brevard, you've talked about the rainfall from these summer months where we have had significant downpours in some of those communities.
Yeah, right over here, Merritt Island, that was 13 inches of rain 2 weeks ago. So this will be a fast-moving hitter, and then you'll have a little break, and then you'll have another one coming on through. I also want to let folks know that you can listen to our coverage on WDBO 580 FM. They are simulcasting us, so I will do my best. My apologies to the radio listeners. We are kind of a visual medium, and I have to revert back to my old radio days and try to be more descriptive.
It's 580 AM.
580 AM, WDBO. And we will also have partners along the coast in Volusia and Brevard, and when they start simulcasting, we'll let you know where you can tune in for that as well, because unfortunately we're going to lose a lot of power, in addition to our great news app, which you'll be able to watch us through.
That'll get you through. All right, Tom, thanks so much.
Check back in soon.
Yeah, Demi. Yeah, we're going to Demi?
Yeah, we're going to Demi right now. She is in Daytona Beach, and the last time we saw her, it was pretty windy. We were talking about all the winds and some rough weather up there. Demi, we see Beach Patrol out there, and sadly in times like these, we always see the looky-loos who come out, but it looks like no one's behind you, so hopefully people are listening in and getting off the beach.
Yeah, Martha, actually that's not the case. We've seen a few people down here, but I hope that presence makes them kind of move off the beach. We told you guys we were going to drive around, but the conditions have changed here rapidly over the last, several minutes, and it really has been amazing to watch. Even the waves crashing even harder at this hour. You can see them hitting up against the pier and things just really getting a lot rougher in the ocean. Notice also down here how the area is sort of starting to flood a little bit. That's because water is coming in from down the road. I want to show you guys this too, something we noticed. We've seen several dead birds along the beach. I don't know if they died while they were flying or if they drowned or what the situation is, but we thought that was interesting because we've seen quite a few dead birds out here. Again, want to remind people, because there have been people walking down by the water, coming to take pictures up at the pier. Probably not a good idea. You should probably start to think about your sheltering plans, especially, I'm going to keep saying it, that 8 p.m. curfew does go in effect for the entire county. That's tonight, and it goes through Friday morning. So you're going to want to get everything done and get sheltered before that happens. We'll stay out here. We'll keep watching what's going on at the beach and check back in with you guys as soon as we have an update. For now, live in Daytona Beach, Demi Johnson, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Demi and her photographer, Mateo, thank you. And let's take another look. This is another look at the storm in a different part of Central Florida. Most of us have been on this bridge at one time or another, Martha. This is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. This is the gateway to Tampa, a cable bridge. It is closed, and you can see why. That is one of those bridges that actually moves from the wind.
This connects Lower Tampa Bay to St. Petersburg, but again, it is closed at this point. You can see the rising water there, and basically it's a long beam bridge with a central cable, if you will. That's how it is built, and we're told that it sways at time, but again, this connects Tampa Bay to St. Petersburg. It is closed at this point. Don't need drivers on that, as look, that water is getting rough.
It is a 4-mile long bridge, and it is a beautiful ride, but not today. Okay, we'll check back in there. But there's the Tampa area, and not that the folks in Tampa are breathing a sigh of relief. All of us are being impacted, but just 2 days ago, Tampa was thought to be the major impact. It, of course, moved further southwest, and now we're going to see Naples and those beautiful folks down in the Fort Myers area really taking the brunt of this. Sanibel Island, Captiva, some of the most beautiful and pristine beaches are being hit hard right now, but something that is, for all intents and purposes, the size or the strength of a Hurricane Andrew.
And this is why it's so important to be monitoring this track hour by hour, because as we've seen, these hurricanes can bobble. That's what happened in Hurricane Andrew. It bobbled, it wobbled and moved kind of at that last minute. So again, folks in Tampa Bay not going to get the brunt. We're not going to get the brunt. We want to make sure that even though this is coming in as a Cat 4, by the time it gets to us, it will be a Cat 1. That is what Tom Terry is telling us and assuring us. So we're looking at a 12 to 18-hour massive thunderstorm for our area, if you will. And one area that is going to get it, they're expecting winds between 70 and 90 miles an hour, 6 to 10 inches of flooding, tornadoes popping up. That's in Osceola County, and that's where our Sabrina Majori is.
Let's check in with her now and see what the experience is like. This is Good Samaritan Village where Sabrina is. And Sabrina, what are you seeing and feeling now?
Right now, we are just getting a very strong gust of wind. Since we've been here, we've seen a lot of on and off rain, but that wind intensity has picked up in the last half hour, a little bit over that. I'm grabbing my hat right now because it's kind of hard to even stay still in place and be balanced. But I want to show you the big concern here at Good Samaritan Society is actually flooding. This was a place that in 2017 flooded during Hurricane Irma. And if you take a look at this retention pond, when we got here at 4 a.m., that was near the bottom. That's gets now towards the top, that water level has just continued to rise and rise and rise even more. And if you take a look in front of me here, all of this was dry before. This is now almost a second retention pond by where we were standing before. So we've really seen that rain kind of gather in these low-lying areas of Osceola County. Now, the county leaders spoke a little bit earlier today, and they say they want everyone indoors by 2 p.m. And, you know, just another thing we heard just moments ago from people who went inside Good Samaritan Society, they told us that they did see the flooding there start to pick up as well. So this is something we're really monitoring right now in Osceola County. Again, another strong gust of wind blowing right now, but we are going to continue to monitor this. And if you're not already inside, county leaders want you to get inside and shelter in place very, very soon. But for now, reporting live in Osceola County, I'm Sabrina Majore, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, and 150 miles away from that storm, and you're already seeing the squally weather. And for folks who are wondering, why are we there at that particular spot? Well, in Osceola County, Samaritan Village, $500 million in damage during Irma, and those folks are hoping that some of those pumps, some of that systems that were put in place to avoid that same scenario will work, and we'll, of course, find out in the next 24 hours.
And the concern also as these winds pick up and hit us is that these down power lines, and you know, this can be dangerous for folks, especially if you go out at night to check things out and you're not going to see that things are electrified. So we know that right now Orange County firefighters are trying to get a handle on some cables that are down near Powers Drive.
Yeah, it's I guess it's ironic that cable is down on Powers Drive, and here's a look at one of those. So the folks that might be getting their power through this down line that you see right there, it is in someone's driveway. And if it was dark outside right now, you might think, well, I'll go outside and check things out. That could be touching the water that you walk in, and then there's the electrocution. But again, this is video just into our newsroom of just one of what likely will be many of these types of scenes playing over and over again.
This is dangerous. You want to leave this to the experts, obviously, because as we've seen, and you've you know, gave statistics on how many people get electrified, killed because of down power lines like this. So again, this is just one of many scenarios that we're expecting to happen throughout Central Florida as that storm moves through. We now want to move up to our friends in Seminole County, and that's where Q McCrae is. He is actually talking to a lieutenant from Seminole County Fire Rescue.
Yes, we're talking with Lieutenant Ed Caslin, who has been really busy for the last couple of days. Talk about all the work you guys did this morning trying to keep your residents safe.
Yeah, most definitely. So we work in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office. Not only are we getting our fire station, our apparatus and equipment ready to respond during this major wind and rain event, but the Sheriff's Office has gone out as well as staked the sides of the road so that if we do need to access with our high water rescue vehicles, we'll know where the roadway is and we can do that safely.
Got you. What are your main concerns at this moment?
So we got three main concerns, basically wind, rain, and generators. So one of the biggest fatalities through all these events is post-hurricane is with the generators and the carbon monoxide. So using generators outside in well-ventilated areas, using them safely and appropriately is what we really want to focus on. But the storm, you should have already prepared and have your evacuation routes planned as well as emergency kits. And if anything arises, then that's what we're here for, and we're prepared to respond.
Lieutenant Ed Caslin, thank you very much for your time. I know we have a lot to get to, so back to you guys inside.
All right, Lieutenant, thank you, and thank you, Q. Tens of thousands of sandbags handed out there in Seminole County. We also showed video of those poles along those roads that are, you know, lined by the retention areas, because when those rescue vehicles go through, those roads will be underwater. Seminole County, first of all, just by its nature, is a very marshy area.
Yeah. All right. We apparently have a tornado warning right now, Greg, so we need to get things over right to our team of meteorologists. Tom, what do you have?
All right, here we go. That's what we expected all day today. First of many tornado warnings are going on. It's mainly in Indian River County, but we're going to be moving into southwestern Brevard County soon, and it's just one of numerous, as I showed you just moments ago, these little rotating thunderstorms coming on through. We actually can do it. You can do a double box if you want. We have a live shot also from our tower camera over at Port Canaveral, and they're really getting some very heavy squally winds and rain right now. We could even see some scattered activity there along the beach as well. But I want to zoom in. This is going to be the Tornadic Storm. It has a little bit of a curve, and we have our little spinny icon right there. So this is going to be fairly rural areas, fortunately. We do have a lot of rural areas in between our big urban population. So that's going to be moving into northwestern sections of Indian River County, and then getting into far southwestern Brevard County, and then possibly into southeastern Osceola. So that's going to put it on trajectory. Not that it will hold together that long. Normally these don't last for more than about 10 or 15 minutes, but you can actually see our live Doppler. That's why we have this. This is the actual wind mode of live Doppler 9, and I've got it in our severe weather mode. You can see the red and the green in close proximity. Those are winds blowing in opposite directions, so it can actually see the rotation. It can only see coming toward and away, but you kind of get the idea of the spin that's ongoing in northwestern Indian River County. So that's going to keep lifting up into far southern sections of Brevard County. The only warning that we have right now, but I will let you know this hurricane 150 miles away, and what caught me from our live shot just a moment ago, I think it was Sabrina, it was already pretty squally over there in Osceola County, and the storm is 150 miles away. So it's only going to get worse as we head throughout the late night hours. It's just about ready to make landfall, we think, over here near Captiva, and will be a very high-end Cat 4, possibly a Cat 5. They're trying to get another hurricane aircraft down in there to take a closer look. But we will bring this storm as probably a Cat 1 in through the Polk County area, in toward western Osceola County, and as a tropical storm, but just barely. This is Thursday daybreak. So tomorrow morning daybreak, we're going to have a lot of wind, a lot of rainfall coming on through the area. Let me get back over and I'll show you one more graphic here. Let's take another look at this live Doppler 9, and this storm still holding together. It is still working through rural areas far southwestern Brevard County. This will keep lifting up here to the north, and of course we've already had a lot of heavy rain. We'll continue to see more heavy rain, guys, over the next several hours. I'm still expecting well over a foot, maybe 20 inches of rain, because this whole core is going to ride up on through here as we move through the late night hours tonight. In a Cat 1, that's kind of what we're preparing for here. We'll have issues with roofs, especially older roofs, shingles. We're going to lose some of our screens and our pools. We'll have power line issues, lots of power issues tonight. I encourage you to listen to our radio partner, AM 580 WDBO. You can always watch us anytime also. We have a WFTV Now smart app on your TV. Just search WFTV. Of course, we have the antenna, and we also have our free news app. So, guys, I'm keeping an eye on this. This cell is kind of in rural areas right now, but we're going to have much more county by county and more of these tornado warnings for hours and hours to come.
All right, Tom, thanks so much. And again, all of these scenarios between the wind, tornadoes, wall of water with the flooding, you know, when we say stay inside, we're doing it because we want to, you know, keep you safe and alive.
Right, and then when we wake up tomorrow, there will likely, I would say, typically based on experience, there'll be some curfews because of power outages and streets that are impassable, and they have to keep people in their homes or in their own neighborhoods. Coverage now. Let's go to Claremont. Channel 9's Christopher Heath is there, where water is starting to surround a mobile home park. Chris, so far not so good for these folks.
No, in this mobile home park we were at earlier today, they, really got hit by Hurricane Irma back in 2017. We were down there checking it out. A lot of the people have already evacuated out of there, but some stayed behind. And Claremont, for most part today, you can tell there's a little bit of wind picking up now and some light drizzle. We've had a couple of lines of rain come through here, and it's gotten breezy. It's starting to get a little more breezy right now. But for the most part, it has been relatively calm. One of the big things you can tell that something is changing out here is how quickly the temperature has dropped. When we first got out here earlier this morning, it's right around 79 degrees or so. I just checked the WFTV weather app. It is at 73 degrees right now, a 6-degree drop in about the last 2 or 3 hours. So things are starting to change out here. As far as what people are doing, some businesses in this area are still open. People are still out getting a couple few things. But as the sun starts to go down, as the storm starts to get closer, we're going to see more businesses close, and of course more people heading back inside and kind of getting where they need to be to ride out this hurricane. And of course, Greg and Martha, we've been through these before, but this is a very big storm headed our way. And so a lot of people taking some very big precautions, getting things boarded up, getting things put away, and getting ready to ride through this storm the next 24 to 48 hours to see what Hurricane Ian has in store for at least this part of Lake County. We'll keep an eye on what's going on out here and bring you more live updates to come. For now, reporting live in Claremont, Christopher Heat, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Chris, you'll hear a lot of references to Irma. That was 2017. That storm did a number on us as well.
And again, this storm is massive. It is coast to coast on the west coast of Florida to the Atlantic side, and it's going to be popping up tornadoes as we are already seeing right now. We understand that we have our warning in Brevard County. You want to head back to Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. You want to give us an update, Tom?
Yeah, we're going to do this all day, so we're going to be bouncing around from one storm to the next. But we have these outer feeder bands that are coming in on the north side of the storm. And we actually have some pretty good squalls coming into Metro Orlando. Not tornadic right now, but we're going to get lots of these kind of bursts of heavy rain. And I believe that is Melanie Holt over in Brevard County. Is that the Indian River over there? Someone? Anyway, but
yes, it is.
Yeah, sorry. That's over along the coast there. They're busy back there. But I want to show you this tornado warning down south right now. It continues to show signs of getting a little bit better organized coming in across extreme. This is northwestern sections of Indian River County. Here is Melbourne and Palm Bay. You are not in the path for this particular storm. Going to be moving north and a little bit west of due north, coming into far southwest parts of Brevard County. So we're over the Fort Drum Marsh Conservation Area, Blue Cypress Conservation Area. Not a heavily populated area, fortunately, but that rural storm is going to continue to gain some latitude here. This is Osceola County. We have Kissimmee St. Cloud up in here. That one is going to continue to be watched. It's the only warning that we have currently, but that cell will rotate up. Keep an eye on these storms up here to the north. The hurricane itself, 150 miles or so down toward the south and west, and about ready to make a landfall, we think, coming into Captiva. We've already had wind gusts over 100 miles an hour. It's hard for sometimes the sensors break or we lose contact with them, so we may not get all these wind reports. I'm sure they'll be trickling in. But again, if you're watching me here right now, the squall threat's increasing. Squall is wind and rain combo, and this is what it looks like now in southwest Florida as they're taking the brunt of Ian right now. But the storm will make landfall here soon and then make its way up at about 8 to 9 miles an hour. This is a slow progression. It will be at least moving into our southern areas here after sunset tonight, and the winds will just load up. We're going to have, like as I mentioned, about 18 to 20 hours of what's going to feel like a severe thunderstorm wind gusts buffeting all of the I-4 corridor, especially on the southeast side. This is 8 a.m. tomorrow coming into northern sections of Osceola County. Let me switch back over and keep track of this little storm over here. So this is kind of the bright red and the green. It's now starting to move in out of Indian River County into far southwestern sections of Brevard County. That's the advantage we have with the live radar. Every 30 to 45 seconds or so, we're getting a brand new sweep showing that. So this is going to move out of that warning area. And I'm going to walk over to Rusty over here at the other wall, because Rusty, you and I were kind of talking about this earlier, kind of on the fly, sorry guys. We're going to get this all day long, and as soon as they issue this is going to probably be extended, or it may not be, but we're going to have a lot more in this kind of eastern side. Because these squalls are moving so fast, Tom, the Weather Service, I've seen them do this a few times, the issuance isn't for a very long duration and the polygons are small, because typically these spin-ups don't last very long, right? They're on the ground very short time and they're gone. Brian and I have been watching several coming off the Brevard County coastline. There's a big squall right there. That's going to roll into Cocoa Beach. Maybe not a tornado, but wind gusts. Wind. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the one thing that's very unique. If you're new to this, we have, what, 1,000 people a day coming here. This is something that is very unique. It'll just be breezy, and all of a sudden, wham, you get that squall. And it's the rain itself, the mass, that helps that. Yeah. And, you know, you're talking about power outage problems. It's the duration of Ian and the combined, you know, eventually, Tom, we're going to have sustained tropical storm force winds. When you have 40, 50 mile an hour winds sustained with the saturation on the ground, that's going to knock
trees over as well. And then you get those gusts, which is kind of like that last little push that some of those branches and trees have, you know, to go on down. And that's one reason why you get such widespread power outages. But as far as this goes, again, you know, you were talking about the wind gusts so far. We've had some 40 and 45s in our southern area. So we've had some tropical storm force
way in
gusts.
advance.
150 miles away in some areas.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just the warm-up act, and a lot of these gusts are coming when the rain hits. And that's why tonight it's going to be a lot of rain. There's a lot of energy transport. Those raindrops are falling at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. That's when we start feeling that. So these numbers are going to climb throughout the day. Can we pop Wftv into here? I'm having my directors punch on the fly if they can, but we're keeping an eye on this severe thunderstorm, tornado warning actually, that's across extreme southwestern sections of Brevard County. Thank you, guys. And that continues to move in here from the south. So that's going to continue to make its way to the north, just on the west side of Melbourne. We're watching, boy, that's a really heavy squall. We saw Mel's live shot. Again, camera you see now is in southwest Florida. We've had some very stormy conditions here along the rivers too. And Rusty, talk to me, because you're from the Crystal River area.
Yep.
You know about rivers and water. Tell me what you're thinking here.
Well, what I'm thinking is that this is still the calm before the storm. The no-name storm of 1993, that superstorm, that flooded out our house. We are about 8.5 feet above sea level. We got a 9-foot storm surge.
That wave just crashing.
And I can't tell you, Tom, the difference between saltwater intrusion and freshwater intrusion. Saltwater intrusion comes in and is going to absolutely wipe out the bottom of your home. We had to pull out all the carpets. Eventually, they had to cut out the bottom 4 feet of drywall. We lost all the furniture, anything on the ground. We were out of the home for more than 6 months.
Yeah, we can see this is still, again, 150 miles away from the storm, and it's not going to be a Cat 3 or 4 when it gets here. It's going to be weaker, but it's going to be much more impactful. Again, we do have the one tornado warning right through here. That's going to, oh, they just reissued it, I believe.
I just zoomed in a little bit for us.
Thank you, thank you. That's going to be right here, moving into far southwest Brevard County. We don't have a lot of folks over here. Fortunately, this is all kind of state preserve. There's a lot of ranch land over here. Yeehaw Junction, we've all been down the Turnpike, 441. We know Yeehaw Junction's on this side. So this is a pretty small nugget, but it's still spinning furiously there, Rusty, and that's going to keep moving north.
Yeah, northwest, you know, about 30, 35 right now, but as you mentioned, as Ian gets closer, these storms are going to start accelerating, and we could have some extremely fast forward movement with these storms. So, you know, even if they're not producing a tornado, these gusts are going to be an issue. And again, I expect this to, you know, continue. I mean, this is just the beginning of seeing these storms, because inherently they're going to be rotating.
Yeah.
And especially when you have the friction difference between the water and, of course, our coastline, that also kind of aids as they move on shore. So we've really been focusing just inland from Brevard County, but I've seen a lot of rotation just off the coast.
That one down there too in Polk County. Yeah, if you talk about the friction, imagine in your socks you slide on the tile, then you hit the carpet. What happens? You kind of do that little stutter, and that's kind of a rough way of describing some of the friction differences here. Again, that's in Brevard County. You can see on the right. So we're starting to get some tropical storm wind gusts here along the coast. That little tropical storm icon pops up there over by the Kennedy Space Center. And it's a good thing they took the Artemis rocket back into its holder, because this thing was going to be for real. And all the wind and water we're getting now, this is going to keep adding up our rain totals. We were talking about this, probably 12, 20 inches of rain still.
This is still the beginning squalls, right? So it's still passing rain, you know, a good shield of lighter rain, but there are still some breaks in the action, right? You will have a little bit of dry time from, you know, here and there, but as we get to this evening, it's going to be steady, and it's going to get heavier, and it's going to really start to pile up. Right now, the flood threat is kind of really isolated to those really low-lying areas, or, you know, look, portions of Brevard County have already had 5 to 8 inches of rain since last night. So, and there really hasn't been a lot there, Tom.
It's just getting started. Do we have can you pull the track up over there? Which computer is this behind me, by the way? Is this 5? Okay.
We're on 5 right here,
We're on
actually.
5, so flip it up on 5. So, the track, again, it's going to be making landfall soon down around the Sanibel, Captiva area. Thank you, Cassie, on that. We've got a whole team here. We're just all working as one. And you can see that storm, again, Rusty, it's going to move into far southern County, we are rural areas. We are watching it. So if we go on to something else, don't worry. We're still keeping an eye on it. We've got 5 sets of eyeballs back here watching what's going on. But we want to show you the track of this storm because
I believe it's weather 3 now, Cassie.
It's going to be moving through right across far southwest near the Fort Myers area, and just a whole bunch. If we can go to Wex 3. Wex 3, sorry guys, Wex 3. We're going to get a whole bunch of water up into all the bays. It's happening right now. And then Cat 3, this is going to be tonight. So at sunset tonight, Rusty, it's still about 100 miles away. So you can imagine the winds are just going to keep increasing. Although the storm will weaken, the wind field's going to expand. Yeah, and you and I actually were on air for Irma when this started to happen as it got into southern Lake County. It was a really concentric, really strong, eye, and then it almost kind of blew its top, and it almost mushroomed out. We saw 80-mile-an-hour winds just really start to expand in Lake County. So I think at some point in time, Ian's going to do that as well. It's a different storm. What really blows my mind, Tom, is how large this storm is. 40-mile-an-hour from the center of circulation, 40 miles is the hurricane force winds. 175 miles from the center of circulation are our tropical storm force winds. That's what's starting to move in now. We're getting close to that, and that will be moving in later tonight. And then the severe thunderstorm wind gusts will start moving in after the sun sets. And unfortunately, that's the timing of this again. It's going to be late at night when all of this starts to move on in. So we are continuing to monitor this, guys. I'm going to go back and take another look at this tornado that is in extreme rural areas right now, but we have a whole bunch of squalliness. It's going to be a very long day for us here today. Yeah, we got you covered, though.
Yeah, and Tom, we'll also be showing people images because this is a daylight storm for the Fort Myers, Naples area, and the images that are coming into our newsroom, we're verifying some of those now. Just incredible video, Martha, of the storm surge and what is happening, but we also have some video that we do want to show you right now.
Yeah, we have new video, Greg, from Naples of down power lines. Look at that bursting into flames right there. This is all because of Hurricane Ian. And again, this is obviously, I don't need to really reiterate this, but a dangerous situation right here. And this is a scene, Greg, that's going to be playing out all over our area.
Yeah, downtown Naples, fire rescue video. That's, again, it's someone that's safe, that knows what they're doing out there. But we wanted to show that. That's an example. And again, they are right in the basic eye of the storm right now, what will be a Cat 4 for all intents and purposes, a Cat 5 when it comes ashore down in southwest Florida. We'll feel tropical sustained winds, tropical force winds, certainly when it comes here, if not Cat 1 storm winds. So power outages, we're talking, as Ron DeSantis, our governor, said a little while ago, he said, we have, 700,000 people right now, customers, and it's a drop in the bucket as to what we'll experience here in Florida. We also want to show you some video happening here locally in Lake County, and one of our crews saw this scene. This is Houston Hall, and again, the preparations are in place to protect this historic structure.
Yeah, this is from one of our photographers. Again, this is Eustis City Hall, but as you can see, they are taking no chances here. Everything is boarded up, so windows, doors all nailed in, completely sealed off. The building sign has even been recovered there. But I want to go back to what you brought up, Greg, about the power lines. Remember, when you have a down power line, those are not like insulated like power cords, as we're looking at City Hall boarded up. That's why officials say stay away from any down power line, because you're not going to know if it's electrified. They ask you not to use any type of object to move that power line, because you don't know, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, and you're not going to know if it's electrified. So I just want to bring that point up, because the video that we showed from Naples, again, is going to be something that we're going to be seeing.
Let's take you now to something playing out on our coast. And again, the storm coming from the Gulf of Mexico, but impacting Brevard County and our Atlantic coast. And Mel Holt, you're in the middle of it. You have covered a lot of storms. This one's 150, maybe say 200 miles from where you are right now.
And that's quite unbelievable. Look at the rain around us now. It's picked up. The wind is picked up. We are in Titusville, right next to the Max Brewer Bridge, and that is the Indian River Lagoon that you see just behind me here. You probably saw some shots of that a little earlier this afternoon as well. Look at that. the water just crashing up over the bank and onto the parking lot right where we are right now. And a lot of that is because the lagoon is so high right now. I've heard you talking about it, Greg, and Tom talking about the amount of rainfall we've had here in Brevard County recently. And of course, now this. If you look behind us here, there's actually a boat ramp here just behind us here. And if you look closely, you can see the waves, it looks like. I know we're here on the lagoon, but it looks like waves coming up the boat ramp and then crashing up over the banks there as well. I did contact Brevard County Natural Resources, and they told me, you know, it's kind of wait and see at this point, but if this continues, the amount of rainfall that we're expecting here in Brevard County and the winds, a lot of folks that live near the Indian River Lagoon could see the lagoon and this particular storm event come up over its banks in some areas. In the last hour or so, Brevard County officials held an update about the storm and said they've really gone from the preparation mode to arrival mode. And if you can stay put, please do. No curfews in Brevard County. There are no evacuations in Brevard County, but they say if you don't have to be out, obviously you don't want to be at this point, because this is just the beginning of what we're going to be seeing here in Brevard County during the duration of this storm. Live here in Titusville, Melanie Holtz, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Mel is such a veteran, too, and her photographer, Sydney Champagne, thank you. You know, she's been there, done that, and then seeing this as that massive storm whips around. This is, again, only the beginning of what they're going to experience. And I just talked via text with someone in New Smyrna, and again, those folks along the Indian River Lagoon, homes and condos are so close, that surge will lift beyond the seawall and into many of those units. The other thing people always wonder about when there's storms, the wildlife. And history does show us that it is displaced in the ocean, that the salinity levels change, and there will be a loss of life for even our sea creatures.
Well, we saw Demi Johnson, who was out in Daytona Beach, and she said that they are seeing dead birds on the beaches right now. And this is before this even gets our way, the bulk of it. We do want to let you know Oak Ridge High School is at capacity right now. They're no longer taking people, and we can tell you that Memorial Middle School is now open for those of you needing to shelter. So again, don't go to Oak Ridge High School because it is at capacity and they won't let you in. We do want to go right now to Lake County. Our Channel 9's Jeff Deal is next to Lake Dora in Mount Dora. And Jeff, how is it out there?
Well, a little different here than it is out on the coast where Melanie was. Definitely winds are picking up, but it feels like, you know, I've covered quite a few of these over the years. It feels like this is sort of the calm before the storm. You know, it's gotten a lot darker in the last half hour to an hour out here. Winds picking up. We saw the clouds moving a little bit more. We're actually seeing a little bit of water here lapping up on the shore, where earlier today we didn't really see any activity out on the lake. It was very calm. We have had bands of rain come through, but right now it's not even raining here in Lake County. This is an area that has been hit hard before back in Irma. See these homes back here along this stretch. Our photographer, Tom Zalowski, who I'm working with today, was out here in the aftermath of that storm, and he remembers specifically covering some of the larger trees along Lakeshore Drive out here. This is an area that's in between Mount Dora and Tavares, and the large trees toppled down and damaged some of the homes along here, so quite a big mess. Not sure if that's going to be the case out here. It does look like a lot of the trees now are a little bit farther away from the homes, not right up next to them, but obviously that would be a concern if they do get high winds out here when more of this storm comes in. After 2 o'clock, it's after 2 o'clock now, that's when Lake County emergency officials wanted folks to be inside out here. You can see actually the wind is picking up even more. Farther down in Tavares, we were out there yesterday. That's where the marina is over there. That was also damaged quite heavily during Irma in 2017. So these are things to keep an eye on, and we're going to continue to drive around here and check things out as the day goes on and as the storm gets closer here in Lake County. For now, reporting live from Mount Dora in Lake County, Jeff Deal, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Jeff, thanks so much. Do want to let you know I've got a friend in Maitland right now, Catherine, who says in Maitland the power is already starting to flicker. And again, this storm's still 150 miles away from us, but we're starting to feel it.
Yeah, let's take a look now. This is taking you down to southwest Florida, some of the first images. And again, a daylight storm sometimes is unique when it comes to hurricanes. And this is just one of the pieces of video that we're starting to compile here that we're going to continue to show you throughout our extended and continuous coverage. Taking you now to Sanibel Island, Florida. This is a very small island. It was split in two, literally, by Hurricane Charlie, and the sands and the land has built itself back up into one island. That may change now, but the wind continues to blow the surf up, and this, most of the time people think, oh, look at all the rain that created this flooding. This is called storm surge. For those new to Florida, or just maybe another explainer, it's basically the lifting of the sea by the way the wind is driving the ocean. Think of it filling a bathtub, and then it overlaps its sides. Well, this is what you're seeing here. This is what we call storm surge. This isn't from rain, even though there's a whole bunch of rain behind it. This is actually ocean water on the streets and the roads of Sanibel, and of course into the homes. Hopefully everyone evacuated. This was zone A for evacuation, but again, as Governor DeSantis said, Martha, we weren't going to go in and grab them by the shirt collar. If they stayed at their own peril, and search and rescue won't happen until it's safe for those crews.
And the good news, I think the governor did allude to the fact that most people understood the severity and the power of Ian and took shelter elsewhere, because as you can see, this is a wall of water. It's not going anywhere, and it's only going to rise as the storm continues to make its way to us. But again, Cat 4 hitting Cat 1 when it gets to us, Greg. But look at these pictures right now from Sanibel, just the beginning, and this water's not going anywhere. It's just going to rise.
And speaking of rising water, not from, again, storm surge, but from rain, and that will happen here in Orlando. Orla Vista, underwater for Irma. Thousands upon thousands of dollars in damage. Let's go to Channel 9's Christy Turner. She is there and is seeing for herself what the folks are already dealing with, again, at the very beginning stages of Hurricane Ian.
You can probably hear the chainsaw going in the background right now. We are starting to see damage from Hurricane Ian here in Orange County. A neighbor on Falling Water Drive was nice enough to let us into his backyard so you can see this damage. Check this out. This tree is huge, and you can see where it clearly snapped off and tumbled into his backyard. And over here, there's some damage to the pole screen. The metal just crunched. I spoke to the homeowner. This is how he describes what it sounded like when the tree came crashing down.
Very hard, strong. It's crooked. The problem is this tree is mine. It's my neighbor. It's not my tree, it's my neighbor's tree.
He says he's just grateful the tree did not land on his house and that everyone is okay, but definitely going to be a big mess to clean up. Reporting in Orange County, Christy Turner, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, we are now again in our extended coverage. It's now 2:30 in the afternoon. We will be here throughout, of course, more than 24 hours from now. We're talking about the storm exiting the state of Florida late on Thursday through Volusia County, and we've seen the impacts in Brevard right now. We're also going to take you up to Flagler County, and the power, you talked about it with your friends in Maitland, already flickering, and some folks have already lost electricity here in Central Florida.
And that is going to be the big one with this whopper of a storm, Greg. It's going to be the power outages that are going to be happening in our community. Again, we still have about 150 miles. The storm is 150 miles away from us at this point. But again, because of those feeder bands and the squalls that we're already starting to see here, power is already going to start going out. FPL reporting that over 3,000 customers are now without power. Duke, almost 1,000 in Lake County, and an OUC just under 50 in Orlando, and KUA says right now in Osceola about 10 people without power. But again, Osceola County is going to get winds between 70 and 90 miles an hour. Going to get a lot of rain as well. So again, these are just early numbers coming in, but already with the storm still 100, 150 miles away from us, you can already see the power outages happening just because of those outer bands, Greg.
And we saw the impacts that hit the coast there in Brevard County. Volusia's going to feel it. Flagler is also feeling it right now. St. Augustine, I remember the images from the flooding of those streets from the storm surge. Again, when we say flooding, you always think of rain and it overfilling the banks of a river. But in St. Augustine, in our coastal communities, it's the ocean. Let's go in right now and take a look at Flagler County right now. And in St. Augustine, Channel 9's Samantha Manning is monitoring the conditions there. Sam?
The big concern for folks out here in St. Augustine really is the potential for flooding. We've seen how bad it can get out here in St. Augustine in previous years. To give you an idea, this marker at this hotel shows how high the water got during Hurricane Matthew. Now, for someone like me, I'm about 5'1". You can see the water would have been so high, it pretty much would have been covering most of my face. So the folks out here really are hoping they don't see this kind of flooding or that kind of damage that they had to deal with last time. But of course, we are keeping an eye on the water. You can see it's already pretty choppy out here. Again, folks out here doing last-minute preparations to board up their businesses and prepare for the impact out here in St. Augustine.
All right, Sam, that is a high-risk area, St. Augustine, for flooding, and it has, with other hurricanes in the past, had major issues. We'll check back in with her.
And right now we want to check back in with Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. We have another tornado warning that we need to talk about. Again, Tom, beginning with Brevard County, the area of that warning, we're really in an unpopulated area. What's changed now?
Yeah, well, we're still in an unpopulated area, thank goodness, but we just have another warning. I just want to do a quick reset on what we have here. This is one of many likely today rotating storms that is now crossing from Indian River over into southern Osceola County. So if you're along 192 and 441 in this gap, that's where this rotate, you see a little icon swirling around there. That's an algorithm, a little computer program that runs in the background that looks for wind shear inside a storm. And this is, we're going to be getting closer to these more populated areas. Harmony here on the east side, we get in Kissimmee and St. Cloud eventually. And we're using our live Doppler radar. We can actually see some of the red and green, kind of the bright colors, the bright red, the bright green. This is kind of the inside baseball of how we find these rotating storms, and that's going to be moving north. But I put a storm track on there, and it did not show any specific cities, right, or towns in the way. So we're watching this particular cell. I've also got our live Doppler 9 radar. We have a special severe mode that cranks it all the way up to well over 100-mile-an-hour winds, and we'll be able to track it for you. And I'm keeping a close eye on what's going on along the coast. I see some wind gusts over 40 with the squalls. And then, by the way, the picture you're seeing on the right is down in southwest Florida, but we've seen Mel Holt's picture showing a lot of wind there. The brighter red over Metro Orlando, Dr. Phillips, are all kind of squally winds that are going to be right around 30 to 35 miles per hour. As Martha said earlier, in the Maitland area, she has a friend that's already, the power's kind of been a little iffy, a little flickery. Okay, so that's going to happen as the transformers get torqued on a little bit. They may lose their status and come back online, and they may go off again. Merritt Island, very heavy amounts of rain, no tornado out of this. I'm seeing a little bit of upper level spin here around Highway 40. The farther north we go, the tornado threat will be a little bit less, at least initially. We're seeing the rain squalls coming through Orlando, and again, we still have heavy rain, and we're still keeping an eye on that whole corridor at Highway 60. And then here is the big elephant in the room. This is going to be Ian, very close to landfall, Captiva. But folks, look how big the center of this storm is. An amazing feat of nature to sustain something this large in the atmosphere. It's warm cores, a lot of warm air release, and it's keeping this thing fed. It's over 40 miles across on the eye, and you can see this is the outer eye wall. This is where the strongest winds are, the north and northeast side, moving through Port Charlotte. They're actually in the calm of the storm. The winds are probably actually pretty quiet there over by the Captiva area, Sanibel Island. But that whole area, this whole shield, and where you see where the rain kind of is pretty solid, that is where the leading edge of the really strong winds are. So we're going to be able to track this hour by hour as it comes on through. The storm now about 150 miles or so on the southwest side. And Rusty and I were talking about this. Rusty's going to take us through the wind field as it moves in, because I know that's your question, Tom. When's it going to move through? So, Rusty, when's it going to move through?
Well, it's going to start moving through later tonight, especially tomorrow, guys. I am going to be on Weather 5. Whenever you get a second, just pop that up. And again, the massive thing that's a big difference between Charlie and Ian, although they're taking the same track, is just how large Ian is. Again, hurricane force winds extend out from 40 miles from the center of circulation. Tropical storm force winds 175 miles. Tropical storm force winds are about double the width of Peninsula Florida. So take a look at this. The timing, this is 6 p.m. So we're starting to see those hurricane force winds in red moving onshore. The very damaging winds over 58 miles an hour in orange, and then your tropical storm force winds in yellow. You can start to see as we go into the evening and overnight, we start to get those stronger winds entering the metro. A lot of our models are saying sustained hurricane winds in Polk County with some gusts nearing 95, maybe even 100 miles an hour. Again, when you're starting with a storm at 155 mile an hour winds, it is only going to slowly abate some of that wind, even though it's moving inland. And look at the spread of your tropical storm force winds. Those will begin to fade, but could have some hurricane force winds in the southern metro as we get into tomorrow morning. You see the orange. That's a very healthy field of potentially 60+ mile an hour sustained winds. And then eventually, as we head into the evening hours of Thursday, those winds begin to move offshore, and we should start to see kind of a breezier but drier Friday ahead. So looking at our southern areas, Osceola and our friends in Polk County, looking at the worst weather timing, that begins to move in noon tomorrow through Thursday morning. Winds of 55 to 80 miles an hour, but some higher gusts are likely. It will all depend on the track. But again, I've seen some models, including the European model, that bring some 100 mile an hour wind gusts, not sustained, but gusts to portions of Polk County. 8 to 12 inches of rain. We've already had that tornado risk in Brevard County. It'll be Wednesday from noon until Thursday in the late morning hours. You are under a hurricane warning right now. So hurricane force winds are likely, at least for a time, in Brevard County. Generally speaking, the farther south you go, the higher the chance, or right along the coastline. We'll be watching that tornado threat with the inherent rotating storms. About 6 to 12 inches of rain, the flood watch, the beach erosion, and the rip currents as well. And I know, Tom, you're going to be watching what's going to be happening a little bit closer to the metro.
That's right, yeah. And again, we want to give you all this information. What am I going to expect? When's it going to get here? Again, the later in the night we get, let's say sunset, okay? Sunset tonight, all the way through the night and into tomorrow, most of the day. That's when the worst weather is going to be moving in for a lot of us, including up in Seminole County. You are under hurricane warning. We could have some wind gusts over 70, 75 miles an hour. The flooding threat, again, will be throughout the area. 12, 20 inches of rain. We're not making these numbers up. This is going to be a big rain event for us as well. You're going to be far enough away on the west side, which is the weaker side of this storm. It will be a strong tropical storm, and we'll have a wide tropical storm force wind field. I don't think you'll verify any hurricane gusts over here, but your worst weather, again, will start arriving throughout late today. Lake County, we've already talked about your heavy rainfall threat, and your lakes and rivers are already very high. We're going to start lapping some of the waves up on the docks here along many of the homes that are all around at Harris Chain and in the Mount Dora area as well. Downtown Orlando, the flooding threat, we already have the heavy squalls, and we are going to lose a whole bunch of power with this particular storm. I'm going to switch this myself. We're going to lose a whole bunch of power. I want to show you this severe thunderstorm, tornado warning rather, that's right along now in southeastern parts of Osceola County, and this particular storm continues to show a lot of rotation to it. This is still in pretty rural areas. Right up here is Kissimmee, St. Cloud, so we're right along 192, and then we have 441 that juts its way south. So this is rural area just on the opposite side here of Brevard. So Melbourne, Palm Bay, you're in the clear on this one particular storm. Look how well this little cell just kind of sticks out and shows us what's going on. So let me put it back on the rain mode here. This is a little more familiar to you, and the rain continues. This is that little burst. See, it has a little bend to it. As you're watching our coverage, keep an eye out for that little bend, a little bit of a hook, and that is going to be where we have the spin. It's going to be on that little hook side. That's where we're going to be keeping track of that. But we have very heavy rain. This storm right here has a little bit of a hook appendage to it, so we'll keep an eye on that cell that's on the west side of Cocoa Beach near the Rockledge area. I-95 may have to go and track that here in just a moment. Merritt Island, Titusville, everything is generally moving northwest at about 30 miles an hour, and the speed will increase as the storm gets closer and the outer spiral arms are moving faster and faster. Where's that video from right there? I can't see. That's some video from earlier this morning as the storm was approaching southwest Florida. So lots of rain for Metro Orlando. Again, we do have this one rural area tornado warning. But guys, this storm continues to approach the coast down south. And let me do a distance on here because that's the beauty of radar. We can see this thing coming from Metro Orlando down south right there. So the eye wall, the northern side of the worst weather, 109 miles away. The center, which looks like it's now crossing the coast, 134 miles. So divided by 9. We got about 13, 15 hours. This thing will be moving in, and it will be moving all the way up through and weakening, but a lot of us are going to lose power. So again, go to our radio partner, AM 580 WDBO. And of course, we have all of our apps, our news app, which you'll be able to watch our coverage live. A lot going on here, guys, and we're going to have a lot of crews out there covering this. We're going to take you all the way through the night with this storm.
All right, thank you, Tom. And we're going to have a news conference coming up from Volusia County, see how those preparations are going. And we're seeing these videos that are coming into us from the Fort Myers, Sanibel, Naples area. So many times hurricanes or bad weather seems to come at night, but this storm is very unique, Martha, in that a lot of the daylight video will be coming into us from Southwest Florida. And then when we're feeling the real brunt of it tomorrow, the sun will be up. And again, some of the imaging that we're going to see is unprecedented. This is a storm that is huge in size and huge in its impact, and we're going to be here for you. We'll be right back. A live look taking you now out, Martha, to Daytona Beach.
Stay with us.
Over the years, people have asked me, how did your firm get so big? The answer is simple. We won a lot. Why do you think some of these other firms are so much smaller? Maybe it's because not many people hire them. In this business, you grow by winning. As America's largest injury law firm, we have more lawyers than any other injury firm. Proof's in the pudding. Size is our strength. There's only one Morgan & Morgan.
Shower and bath remodeling made fast and easy by the experts you can trust. Hey everybody, Joe back with Kirsten from West Shore Home. And Kirsten, for years we've talked about West Shore Home's fast and easy remodeling experience. But today, I really want to focus on what we mean when we're talking about fast.
So Joe, one of the biggest questions we get is how soon can your installers come out to do the project? We know everybody's busy. So I'm happy to say that anyone who orders the classic shower package, we could be out in as little as a week to get that job done.
Wow, you're saying 1 week from initial purchase to installation. That's truly remarkable. Now, how about people who are not so sure right now? How can you help them?
So right now, for anyone who calls in, we're offering 0% APR for 48 months, plus 50% off the cost of installation.
Folks, if you need to remodel your shower or bath, trust the experts at West Shore Home. Give them a call today, and when you do, take advantage of this great offer. West Shore Home is extending this offer for 1 week only. It's 0% APR for 48 months, and for limited time, they're doing 50% off the cost of installation. Call West Shore Home now.
Let the weight fall off with our Medi Weight Loss New You Fall Special. Tired of losing just 1 to 2 pounds a week? Lose up to 20 pounds your first month. Schedule your free assessment today and get real weight loss now with Medi Weight Loss, accepting most insurance plans.
I was hit by a careless driver and badly injured, and attorney Dan Newland got me $1,250,000. Thank you, Dan.
Involved in a car accident? Call me at 407-888-8000.
All right, we're going to continue our local coverage, and its continuing coverage will be on the air, quite frankly, until the storm exits Volusia County. And again, the Volusia County News Conference coming up in about 15 minutes to see how that impacts. And the storm is so big, Martha, I just can't get over how it comes around the state of Florida and then rams right back into our coastal counties on the Atlantic side, and it's already happening.
It is massive. It's about 150 miles away from us right now. We want to get the very latest from Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry to give us a look at what's happening now. Tom?
Yeah, and my producer was just telling me we can go ahead and show the video from the hurricane hunters. They flew in to this Hurricane Ian earlier today, and these are some very stout planes and stout stomachs on these planes, and they had so much turbulence. They said they'd never seen, see the lightning strike in the distance? They'd never seen so much convective activity, lightning, in a storm before. And we're going to be doing research as to, you know, generally we don't see a lot of lightning out of tropical cyclones. There's not a lot of super cool water droplets at high altitude. It helps create lightning and electrical charges and all that. But they had so much turbulence that they dropped like 1,500 feet, damaged part of the nose, and they had to abort the mission.
The bunks came loose from inside the plane. aboard Kermit, according to Nick Underwood, who was on the flight. Coffee spilled everywhere, and he's never seen such lateral motion while on this Hurricane Hunter.
Yeah, they're just, it's just, I can't even imagine. I never want to
There's video from inside the plane, and you see everything.
Yeah, it's all falling off the walls. The beds have flown into what would be where they walk. It's incredible video. We'll try to show that to you folks.
And that's kind of the core of this monster hurricane that's about ready to make landfall as a high-end Cat 4, probably the 5th strongest landfall that we've seen if it doesn't get categorized as a Cat 5. But either way, look at where you see this deep dark red. That's where the worst weather is starting to move north, and especially as this core weakens and moves north here overnight tonight, guys, we're going to be here. It's going to be a very long night, so just settle in, keep all the kids calm, make them a part of this process, and explain this is just what nature does, and we're going to all be hunkered together. This is our forecast showing the radar with a little bit of spin here, quite a bit of spin actually, south of 192. So we're on the east side of St. Cloud, over closer to the celebrations over here, Harmony I meant. This is going to move still over relatively rural areas, keeping an eye on that. This cell also has shown quite a bit of squalliness to it. That's a term that I don't even know if it's a real word. It's a word I use.
It's a word today.
It's a word today. It is now. It's in the dictionary. With heavy rain and wind, the raindrops themselves have mass. There's a lot of heavy water in drops, and they are what push the wind with them. So that's when you get a heavy rain burst, the wind comes with it, okay? That's very unique to a tropical system. That's going to be moving through from Cocoa Beach up here to the north. This is a very heavy kind of squally rain through Titusville. And again, I'm keeping an eye on that particular rotating storm that's going to be crossing right between here, 441 and 192. We're still on the east side of Harmony, but that's, again, in rural areas, thankfully. There's a live view from Daytona Beach. We can see the water there. And we're still keeping an eye on this rotating storm. I'm going to keep an eye on that rotating storm, and generally throughout the night, more and more and more of this rain is going to continue, and we're going to really start seeing the 12, 15, 20 inches of rain. Here's the Pearson area down through Heathrow. We're going to lose a lot of power, okay? That's why it's important for you to think now when that power goes out. Start thinking about your plan. Please do not light candles and leave them unattended. Okay, get those flashlights going here later on tonight. Winter Haven, the Highland Park area, and here is the storm itself. It looks like we're very close. When that center crosses the coast, is the official landfall point. I want to do a distance because I've been so curious. The width of this eye, at least based on radar, is still around 30 miles across, probably a little bit larger from the cloud base. And Hurricane Charlie would be about my fist in the middle of that, okay? That was the wind field from Charlie, about 10 miles when it came on shore. It spread out to about 15 when it hit Orlando, but this is a much, much larger storm that's going to continue to gain latitude. So I will tell you guys, when we get to sunset tonight, that's when you definitely need to be hunkered, because we are going to be all night watching the squalls.
And this is slow, Tom. This is
9 miles an hour.
That's it.
This is about 1/3 the speed of Charlie. This is about as fast as I can run, 9 miles an hour, and I'm not very fast, but that's me trying to run up, and it's going to take me all night to do it.
So, Tom, the 10 deadliest storms, the last 10 of them, there are these deaths that are categorized as indirect, so not directly related to the storm coming through. And there have been, of the 973 people killed, because I want to bring it up because you touched on it, 20 of them were killed because of open flames in their homes.
That's
whether
right.
that was, you know, a candle or an unattended.
Sterno or some of these things you're trying to.
So that's 20 out of 970 killed by an indirect cause.
Yeah, and we often, we saw this a lot during Rita back several years ago near Houston. There were more people killed during the evacuation effort than there were during the storm itself. We've had a lot of people with generators. Very careful with generators, because if you're like me, I bought mine 18 years ago in 2004, and we've had it serviced a couple times, and my wife will get it running here, hopefully not, but she may have to, but she's going to put it outside away from the house. Do not put it in the garage. Don't run it when it's raining, okay? Because if people, it's raining, bring it inside. No. Wait till the rain's over, then you can perhaps get it fired up, get it running for a little while. Don't forget, we have our automobiles. Hopefully you have gas in your car. There's air conditioning conditioning in your car, hopefully. You can charge some of your phones in your cars. It's not back to the dark ages entirely, but we are going to go through a prolonged period of time here without having power. So right now, start freezing those water bottles. If you haven't already, turn the fridge and the freezer all the way down, because we're likely, guys, by tonight, as that wind starts approaching, after sunset, it's going to be all night, all night, all night, and into tomorrow.
And don't get in your car. It's so important to know. And Alexa Lorenzo, our traffic anchor, has showed us already crashes that have happened due to the slick roads. Also, we have areas, obviously, here in Central Florida prone to flooding that are just going to be covered. And in fact, there was a town in Seminole County that they're actually putting poles up so that if crews need to come in to rescue people or rescue teams, they can see where the road is, because roads are going to be covered and inundated with water.
No doubt. And there'll be the temptation when your power's out to charge your cell phone in your running car. And I'm not saying don't do that, but certainly your garage doors got to be up. The garage doors down, cars running. You talk about something that is the silent killer for storms. It is always that carbon monoxide, whether it's from a generator or from a vehicle. Okay, enough of our warnings there, but we do want to head over to the coast in Volusia County, where those winds and the waves have been whipping up. And again, the storm's still really a long way from here, from Daytona Beach, about 170 miles away.
Our Channel 9's Demi Johnson live in Daytona Beach. And Demi, the last time we checked in with you, we saw Beach Patrol driving down the road and the rough seas still kicking up.
Yeah, Martha, and I don't think their warnings have really helped. There are some people down by the water. We've seen a few of them going in the water. Let me show you why that's probably not the best idea right now. Look at these waves. We're up on the pier. We thought it was really amazing, just the power, the speed, the way the waves are moving. We wanted to just take a minute to let you guys really look at those from our point of view. Really just amazing the way the waves are moving. Again, we've been out here, we've been seeing the conditions change. It's been wind, it's been rain, it's been waves, flooding, water moving in, covering the sand. We just want to continue to remind people about that curfew. Again, these people are out here right now, probably should be heading back, getting ready to hunker down, because that does go into effect at 8 p.m., stays into effect until Friday morning at 7 a.m. Again, probably best to start getting your plans in order right now so that you can stay in and be ready for that. Again, one more thing that I do want to say is that sorry, I was getting some feedback there, but one more thing I do want to say is that we are signing off for the day. We've been out since about 3 in the morning. We're going to have another crew taking over, and we'll check back in with you guys first thing in the morning. So for now, we're going to sign off here at Daytona Beach.
Debbie, before you go, I've got one question for you, and great reporting out there. I thought it was interesting that the last time we went to, you talked about, and you touched upon this, the wildlife. And I've been doing this a long time, but when I heard you say, what struck me is the birds are dead on the beach there. And you said that, you know, you actually stopped in your track and saw these dead birds. I thought that was sad, but interesting.
Yeah, it's really eerie. You just kind of started to see rows of them lined up along the beach. I don't know, again, if it was they lost their track in the wind and they died that way, or if they drowned. A lot of them were under the water, but it was just really an interesting sight to see out here.
All right, Demi, thank you very much. And again, Demi is one of our newer reporters here, doing a fantastic job. And just like so many of you new to Central Florida, we have another tornado that we want to talk about. It's a tornado warning.
Let's go right now to Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry. Tom?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing this all day. Right now, tornado warning, a new one out. This is going to be getting closer to the Holapa area here. We're going to be on the southeast side of St. Cloud, which is right here on the south side of East Lake Topeka. So on the southeast side, the storm itself is probably going to lift on the east side of St. Cloud, but it's going to be very near Holapa. And every time you hear that sound, that lets me know that we've got a tornado warning there. Continuing to observe rotation capable of producing a tornado in eastern Osceola County. It's also had a very persistent amount of rotation with it as well. So that's going to move up toward the 192 area. Let me do a little quick storm track on it, because it's going to be moving, again, probably on the east side of St. Cloud, but we're going to be watching this closely. Let's say 30 miles an hour. So also heading up in toward the Harmony area in the next 25 minutes. So we're going to be watching this nugget. If this keeps holding together and has some rotation, we will will get this likely in towards southern sections of Orange County in the next half hour, say closer to 3:25 or 3:30, and we may have to continue keeping an eye for any additional rotation moving in toward Orlando. But if you're in the Holapa, the Harmony area, hopefully you've already gotten hunkered down for this, as we've been telling you. Hopefully you've been getting in by now and get ready to ride out this particular storm as it continues to work through. Let me show you one more spot here that we're keeping an eye on. We kind of do this all in real time as it develops. We want to give you the early warning on this, but from Titusville to Rockledge, we're looking okay, and just a large shield of rain here that's going to come on through for Metro Orlando. And with the hurricane still, what, about 145 miles or so southwest of Orlando, we're going to be in this northeast quadrant where these kind of what we call discrete cells, discrete meaning they have room to maneuver. They're all by themselves. They have their own environment, and this will continue to lift through the Holapa area, southwestern sections of Orange County. Then we get these outer rain bands that are coming on through here. So as we again progress toward sunset tonight, 7, 7:30, 8 o'clock, when it starts getting dark, that's when I think the worst wind effects will start to come on through. And we're going to have impacts all the way along the coast through at least Friday due to storm surge. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Cassie, why don't you talk a bit more about the surge advisories that we have?
Absolutely, and I think my mic is on. No, now my mic is on. So I want to take you up to the coast because it's a little bit untraditional when we talk about our storm surge that we're going to have for part of our East Coast beaches, because this storm is not coming in from the east. We're actually seeing it come in from the south and west. And again, southwest portions of Florida are seeing massive amounts of storm surge, which I'm actually going to explain how that all works coming in just a moment. But for us, it's almost like a fetch that you get on the lake. We have this wind-driven water that's going to get pulled up to our shoreline as that storm kind of sweeps across central Florida. You have that pull on shore, and that's why we have the potential to 3 to 5 foot of storm surge up for parts of our Flagler County coastline, and then extending northward as we get up to Jacksonville, up into the Georgia coastline, and even extending beyond that. But we will still have issues with storm surge, although it's not necessarily coming from the east, giving us that traditional pattern. But I wanted to show you this outlook and kind of this explainer of what happens. You get these storms that essentially kind of rush the coastline and bring with it this wall of water, which raises the sea level for the coastline. And then on top of that, the waves of the ocean continue to slam. And that essentially is what storm surge is. And I was listening to Greg Warmuth earlier. We were talking about just the levels of damage that you can see with some storms. So again, trying to explain a little bit of this damage for you. A Category 1 storm, which some of Central Florida is going to experience Category 1 strength winds. That's when you have dangerous winds, minimal damage. And you can see this graphic will actually show kind of the progressive damage that a home, trees, and surrounding areas would experience. Now we go from a Cat 1 getting past 95 miles per hour. You can see shingles, tree branches, the bend in the tree as we get closer towards a Category 3, which again, we could potentially have a Category 3 closing in on parts of Polk County through the overnight and into tomorrow. But if we fast forward, this still getting past Category 3, past Category 4, which we're right at that threshold, potentially at a Category 5. That's where we have extreme and catastrophic damage. And that's unfortunately what people are experiencing down as we get closer towards the Fort Myers, Cape Coral area, and down as we head down into southwest Florida. Now, again, as we talk about the storm damage here, potentially Category 1 strength winds bringing damage to parts of Central Florida. Our big concern will be power outages. But again, we're going to continue to monitor that. Also throughout the day today, we have that tornadic ability or capability with this storm. And that's what Tom has been watching really for us all afternoon. And we'll continue to track that for you as well.
And the thing to remember, too, about the wind gauges that we're going to monitor here, let's just assume for a second we're either Cat 1 or just below that tropical storm force. That's not gusting to 74, 75. That is sustained, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. So although we may not necessarily have Category 1 sustained force winds here in Orlando, which we may actually have that, but areas to the north as we get into parts of northern Lake County, Seminole County, even up into Volusia County, we could get gusts that do reach that 74+ mile per hour range, Greg.
And again, that's no fun. I mean, if for example, I was out covering Charlie, and I remember we opened the door to try to take shelter, and it ripped the door hinges basically off and just bent the door completely back. I mean, those are some strong gust, if not sustained winds. Thank you, Cassie. What a much better explainer on surge than I attempted to do a little while ago. Well, and I've listened carefully to you. You're such an expert, and our entire team. Thank you.
Right now, we want to go to Shannon Butler, who is the severe weather chaser in Osceola County. And Shannon, you've been going around the community there to let us know what's happening, and what have you been able to see?
This is really the first time we've seen a lot of wind and rain here in Osceola County. You can see the trees are blowing here. Even this park equipment over here, it's spinning and spinning and spinning because it started to pick up here. But here's what I'm going to show you that I have not seen before. Take a look at East Lake Toho right now. Can you see all of those white caps that are coming up now from this wind crashing up here on the beach? It almost looks like an ocean out here instead of just a lake that is very, very calm. If you know anything about Osceola County, these lakes are very, very popular for boating. They're large lakes, Lake Toho, East Lake Toho, and they're usually much calmer than this. Now, while we've been at that park, the St. Cloud police chief has been driving around now checking things out. He came over here to say hello, so we're going to put him on television and get him wet while he's out here. Hi, Chief. Tell me, you've been driving around most of the day. Tell me what you are seeing. Do you think people have taken this seriously and are staying home? Because earlier today when we were driving around, it seemed like there was an awful lot of cars on the road.
And I will tell you, I think that's actually changed quite a bit in the last probably hour or 2 hours. You're starting to see that it's people do take it seriously. I think now that the squalls are starting to come in, you're starting to see some heavier winds and heavier rains. People are starting to get home. I'm driving around a lot. I see a lot of the houses are actually secured. I do see boards on the windows, so they're doing it right. They're taking it seriously.
When you first even pulled up, the rain was not like this. It seemed like it's picked up just in the last 15 minutes or so.
Yes. And I think you're going to start seeing that, obviously, as the squalls come in. It's going to get heavier. Again, I'm not used to seeing the lake like this, to be honest with you. It actually looks like an ocean. That's not normal, so it's going to start to get worse.
What's your biggest concern for your community tonight?
Just that everyone stays indoors, stays safe, pay attention to the media reports, make sure they're watching. There's a potential that the eye might be coming this way. There's a potential it could cross over. Make sure if that eye does come, do not go back outside. It's very dangerous. Allow first responders to go around and do what they need to do. Stay off the streets until this storm is passed and we're getting an all clear sign.
When are your folks going to not be able to respond?
So there's certain wind conditions that we will be continuing to assess to determine whether or not we can get out there. Usually when the winds pick up around 40 to 50 mile an hour per sustained winds, it's going to make it very difficult for us to come out. However, we are going to assess that as we go.
And right now you are not going home. You are going to be here all night?
I'm staying through. If my troops and my officers are going to be on the street, fire department's going to be on the street, emergency responders, I'm going to stay out with them.
We're sorry we made you come out here and get all wet. You were dry when you showed up.
That's right. It's all good. It's all good. Please stay safe. God bless everyone.
We will. You guys too.
Take care.
Thanks, Chief. So you can see just even since we were doing this interview just how much this rain has picked up. The wind is much stronger than it was earlier. You can tell, the storm's going to move kind of into Osceola County before it hits Orange, before it hits Seminole and Volusia. We're already starting to feel the effects of that. When we came down here this morning from Orange County, the Turnpike was fairly empty. But once we got to 192, it looked almost like a regular day in Kissimmee. But now that the wind has started to pick up, we watched as the restaurants started to close, and now that traffic seems to be pulling back enough where people understand that this is starting to get worse by the hour, and it is probably now time for everybody to come in and stay in. Martha, Greg.
Shannon, thanks so much, and we so appreciate the men and women in law enforcement right now and first responders who are leaving their families behind to keep our community safe at this point.
Osceola County is an area that we've seen lots of flooding. They've tried to make some improvements from other storms. So again, as this rain event comes through, we'll see how those improvements, if that improvement is significant or not. And the one thing that's interesting to note about what you heard the police officer talk about there was the eye of the storm. And it's such a bizarre feeling too, once the eye passes, and how things sort of calm down and you can almost look up to the sky.
Eerily quiet.
It's crazy. All right, let's go now to Volusia County. County leaders are giving an update now on the impacts of Hurricane Ian, and this is where the storm will exit once it's done in Florida.
This should be an interior room with no windows. And also, be sure to keep your weather radio on and take it with you to your safe room. At this point, everyone planning to stay at one of our shelters should hopefully already be there. In fact, everyone should be wherever they plan to ride out the storm. They should be securely in place at this time. With the impacts of Ian coming very soon, this isn't the time to be out on the roads. Please shelter in place and stay off the roads until you're told that it's safe to go out. Standing water, downed trees, and other debris can make roads dangerous and impassable. Not only that, but at some point during the storm, it could become too dangerous for emergency crews to respond to calls. So if you ignore safety precautions and get yourself in danger, we might not be able to come out and get you. Also, we want to make sure to keep the roads clear so that our public works crews can get around to conduct their assessments and clean things up after the storm has passed. Just one more reason to stay off the roads if you don't have to go out. And again, if you don't have to go out on the roads, please be aware that some traffic signals already are reported to be non-operating, and I'm sure there's going to be more as the storm goes through. So remember that when you are approaching an intersection where the traffic light is not working, you must treat that as a four-way stop. And another quick mention about downed power lines. If you see a downed line, always assume that it's live and never touch or go near it. The United States Coast Guard has approved suspension of bridge openings beginning 5 p.m. this evening. The county's drawbridges on Main Street and High Bridge Road will not have any bridge openings after 5 p.m. this evening. The bridges will be locked down in place to allow for vehicular traffic for the duration of the storm. And just a reminder about generator safety, because we don't want to have any tragedies. Never use a generator indoors or outside, even close to the house or windows, vents, or air intakes that could allow carbon monoxide to come indoors. This can be fatal. Also, proper ventilation is critical to reducing the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning from a generator's engine exhaust. And when using one, be sure to maintain plenty of airspace around the generator. Again, we cannot stress this enough because we do run into issues with carbon monoxide. Remember, it's a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas. It can kill you. So if you're using a generator, please install a carbon monoxide detector in your home. Lastly, a quick reminder about the curfew that goes into effect tonight for the entire county. The sheriff might have some more to say about this, but just a reminder on the hours. The curfew starts at 8 p.m. tonight and goes through 7 a.m. on Thursday morning, and then resumes from 8 p.m. Thursday night through 7 a.m. on Friday morning. The curfew doesn't apply to regular members of law enforcement bodies, regular employees of businesses, industries, or government entities while traveling from their jobs, and all emergency workers. Again, all county offices are closed today and tomorrow. A decision on Friday has not been made yet. And also, with the exception of a government and emergency aircraft, the Daytona Beach International Airport is closed and all flights have been canceled until further notice. Flyers are encouraged to contact their airline for scheduling updates. Once again, updated information on closures and other storm information can be found at volusia.org/PIN. PIN is our acronym for Public Information Network. Another useful resource to download is the American Red Cross's Tornado app.
All right, you've been watching Volusia County's Emergency Management Department and office there deal with what is expected to be pretty significant impacts. I'm joined now by Darlene Jones, our 4 o'clock news anchor. And Darlene, you guided our coverage earlier in the day, and this has really been something. It's a slow process that we're going to be here for. And again, as we heard Volusia County talk about, be careful when you want to go out. They're going to have curfews in place.
Yeah, indeed. You know, it's incredible really to watch the progression of the storm and seeing our reporters out in the field and seeing the impacts and how things have changed, the conditions. Demi Johnson, when we went to her first thing this morning, there was barely any rain falling, and now you see her and, you know, the winds have picked up, the rain has picked up, and incredible to see the progression there.
We'll talk more about the Volusia County curfews. It is something that all of our counties, and again, I can't speak on behalf of them, but they will put those curfews in place. In Volusia County, for example, during Matthew, 4 people were killed after that storm in the post-storm time, and one of them left their home during the curfew times. So again, past history has shown that it can be dangerous.
Yeah, and it's really after, because you don't know what's underneath. They had significant flooding after Matthew and also Irma in the Volusia County areas. And so when you have that much water just sitting on the ground, you have no idea what's underneath. You've already seen debris blowing around out there. Trees have fallen in some of our areas, and so it really is best to just stay home. And the other thing is that even when you think the storm has passed, right, the rain has stopped, things seem to be calm, stay inside until you get the all clear.
All right, let's check back in. Again, we've got storm-related questions we're answering, hopefully on the air for you, but if you've got some others, we also have a helpline. We'll talk more about that. But first, the guy that's been through all of these storms since 2004 and helping to guide us today, Certified Chief Meteorologist Tom Terry.
Just made landfall.
Okay.
Cayo Costa, which is near that Sanibel, Punta Gorda, that whole area near Fort Myers, winds 150. That's the unofficial, that's what we have now. So that's a strong Cat 4, a very powerful hurricane. I want to get back and I want to show you, we still have this tornado warning that's in effect right along the apex here between 441 and 192 in the Holopah area. Keeping an eye on, of course, all these outer rain bands here, but early warning Doppler 9 radar has done a really nice job of showing exactly where, if there's a tornado, it's going to be right here, just about a mile or so on the southeast side of this of Holopah. And this particular area right now, if I can switch one more graphic here, so if you're in this Holopah area, Satellite Avenue, Topeka Avenue, 192, if you're in that Holopah Road 192 junction, go ahead and get inside your closet, bathroom. They have a lot of manufactured mobile homes over here. Just get as many walls between you and the outside as you can. It's coming in from the south and east, so the winds will be the strongest here on the south and southeast side of your property as that continues to lift more toward the north. And we're still watching some heavy rain squalls along our coast as well. George Waldenberger joins our coverage right now. We have all 5 of us in broad rotation. Speaking of broad rotation, we've got a big hurricane that just made landfall.
Yeah, officially landfall 3:05 p.m. Cayo Costa, southwest Florida here. You can see the center, the eye of Hurricane Ian. Right now, 150-mile-per-hour winds. The eye is about 50 miles wide, and wind gusts are between 110 and 120 miles per hour within the eye wall. And the eye wall is the entire ring around here, and you can really see that eye wall when we change over and look at our radar. And I'm looking at radar out of Tampa. That's the closest radar site. And now we're showing you the heavy rain, and you can see the ring. This is the eye wall we're talking about. If we are to see those maximum sustained winds, 150, 155 miles per hour. Remember, this is a strong Category 5 hurricane, and it's moving onshore right now. It has officially made landfall. It's moving to the northeast, so all of our friends and relatives that live in Port Charlotte, they're in the eye wall right now with those potentially 150-mile-per-hour winds. I-75 here, all the way as you head down toward Fort Myers in the eye wall, and the winds usually quiet down toward the center of the eye wall. What I've done here is I've sampled the winds, and look at these estimates. Again, this is also using Doppler radar, 150 to 160 miles per hour. By the time the radar beam gets up, this is at elevation, so a little higher in the sky, but this shows you, essentially gives you kind of truth to the fact that this was a 155-mile-per-hour hurricane, Category 4, strong Category 4, as it just made landfall in southwest Florida. Now, what does that have to do with us? Obviously, it's coming here. We all know that. But as it moves to the northeast, we're in the northeast quadrant. Looks like that tornado warning may have just been canceled. We'll talk about that in a second. But with hurricanes, this northeast quadrant is a place where the winds, you can see the storms kind of moving up here from southeast to northwest. The low-level winds and the upper-level winds are different. They're pointing in different directions. This can kind of twist the storms in these outer bands of rain and these far outer thunderstorms, and when you get these isolated storms like this, these are the ones that tend to rotate. So this is why we had a persistent tornado warning. It started down here in Indian River County. It went up through Brevard County, then into Osceola County, and when you get these pulses of lightning like we're seeing with this one storm, that's when you tend to see, or that's another clue that you may actually have a tornado warning. Now, thankfully, Tom, you can confirm this with me, but looks like that warning is canceled at this point.
Yeah, they did cancel it.
All right, good, but the circulation has kind of weakened, and we are watching a few more storms off to the northeast. So as I zoom out, we're looking at our our velocity radar, and I actually want to look at our velocity radar out of our personal radar site here just north of Bithlo.
That's it.
And that's it, yeah. And so we're watching these storms off the east coast of Florida. Tom, I'm not seeing the rotation here that I was with this particular storm that was headed toward Holopaw, but we're going to watch all of these storms kind of moving in from southeast to northwest. Right here, this was the rotation right there. And we're going to watch all these storms basically over the next few hours, because Tom, if this shear can continue, Orange County would be next, and if we get another warning, it would be this. It could be this cell. So I'm going to toss back to you, and we're going to talk more about our threat going forward.
Yeah. This is just one a many. Thank you, George. And they did cancel that warning. These tornadoes are likely going to last for 10, 15 minutes, and they kind of lose their spin and they degenerate a little bit, but they have a history of producing more rotation. So this one cell here, it's just one a many we'll track today, will come in on the east side of Orange County. So we'll be watching this very closely. And where you see the red on here, that, of course, is heavy rainfall, and it's also a very squally rain band. This is probably 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts, which we've already seen a lot of today coming on through the area as this continues to rotate to the north. Greg, we've been talking about this. It's just going to get started here with the wind.
I want to, as soon as I heard Cayo Costa, I'm like, that sounds so familiar. It's a beautiful barrier island. You can get there by boat, ferry. It's just the bluest of waters. But we've talked about the similarities, Tom and Darlene, about Charlie in 2004. Guess where Charlie came ashore? Very near Cayo Costa.
Yeah, very near. And I used this kind of graphic earlier, and just for scale, Charlie actually, as we know, cut a channel. What they named that, right?
Yes, it was in Captiva. It turned Captiva into two, and then now that has since closed up.
Right. So yeah, it actually just buzzsawed right on through because it was such.
It took out some of the trees that were non-native. That was one good thing.
Yeah, it was such a small core, but that was roughly the size of the wind field from Charlie. Just this little tiny dot.
Oh wow!
And you can see the large extent of the eye wall around this. So this whole Port Charlotte, Fort Myers area, they're actually probably calm. They may actually have a little bit of filtered sunshine there now, but that all is going to move through. As we talk to folks who are at home right now, this is going to degenerate. It's going to weaken as it moves north, but we have hurricane warnings out for most of the area except far west, and I think Flagler County is still under tropical storm warning, but hurricane warnings for just about everybody else because we do expect this to still have hurricane force winds as it moves in, at least hurricane gusts. Okay, this is from Fort Myers, and we can go ahead and show you this. We have, that's Tampa, looks like down there on the lower side of the screen.
Sunshine Skyway at the very bottom.
Skyway,
Daytona Beach there at the top, and in the middle, I'm not sure, it looks like that's Cocoa Beach. That appears to be
Port Canaveral, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can go ahead and take this if you...
There's Fort Myers at the top.
You want to take it? Okay, so there's Fort Myers, and they're getting hammered right now, and that's why this has been kind of a hard storm to pin down exactly where the track was going to be. Obviously, millions have hopefully gotten away from the coast, but they are dealing with probably sustained 80, 90-mile-an-hour winds right now because they're on the east side, but we're probably gusting well over 100 miles an hour in Fort Myers right now.
My goodness. And the difference, too, there's so many differences between Charlie. You touched on one, but one of the other ones, Darlene, is just how fast Charlie was moving. It was going about 25 miles per hour at some times. That means it's really moving as it comes across the state. And the difference between that storm and this storm some 18 years later is this one's going to sit on top of us. But we can't do anything but feel for those folks of Southwest Florida. You've seen some of those images coming in, Darlene.
Really, and it is, it's awful because they just sit and the rain and the wind is just pounding them. And that's really what causes a lot of the destruction that we see when you start to see those trees topple over and things like that, because there's so much weight from all of the rain, and then you have that wind come through with those gusts Tom just spoke about. You know, you got to feel for them.
We'll be back. We're going to talk more about what you can do to prepare as now the storm is over land here in Florida. The eye has come ashore in Cayo Costa within the last 15 minutes or so. We'll take a quick break right here and come back with our continuing coverage. We're pulling together all kinds of video sources. Our reporters are spanned across Florida to bring you the latest on this hurricane. It is right now known as the 5th largest and strongest hurricane to hit the U.S. in history, and it's hitting us right now. We'll be right back.
Why risk a bounce check? A cash advance could cost a lot less, and it doesn't hurt my credit rating.
Amscot Cash Advance, up to $500 with no credit check.
Now with more 24-hour locations than ever.
Why Amscot? Do the math.
I was on my way home from work when I was rear-ended at 40 miles per hour.
The next day, I called attorney Dan Newland, and I'm so glad I did. At the end of my case, Dan's team got me $460,000. Thank you, Dan.
Attention, you may still be eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan that saves money and offers extra coverage. With Simply Healthcare, you can receive benefits like enhanced dental, prescription drug coverage, money for over-the-counter items, a Part B give-back, hospitalizations, and that's not all. You can also receive new benefits like a $1,000 flex card for dental, vision, or hearing needs, and much more. Get free expert advice. Simply contact us today.
Take your new seat in 2 minutes.
I am Aphrodite.
I'm Jerry.
My digital kingdom makes it easy for mortals to check their balance and earn and boost their rewards.
I think I love you. It.
Top-rated app for a life ever rewarded.
Your loved ones show up for you. At HCA Florida Healthcare, we do too. And you'll feel it in everything we do. HCA Florida Healthcare, we show up for you.
Free is our favorite word, like buy one, get one free.
2 treadmills.
At Morgan & Morgan, our fee is free. You don't pay anything unless we win your case. Injured? Call Morgan & Morgan. ForThePeople.com.
Let's go!
Is that the Credit One Bank Platinum X5 Visa?
Yeah.
For your fealty, I bestow a gift.
Great.
Get 5% cashback rewards. Visit CreditOneBank.com.
Some unexpected expenses can be pretty big. Now Amscot can help with those too.
Up to $1,000 cash, no credit checks, and flexible payment options.
It's the new installment cash advance from Amscot. Get started at Amscot.com.
Amscot!
It is now 3:22. At about this time tomorrow, we should see the eye of the storm right over top of us. But for right now, we are tracking it as it moves across the southwest part of Florida. And I know you still have a lot of questions. Hopefully, we're answering those. If not, you want to have a direct question to a direct expert, we can do that.
Yeah, our hurricane helpline is now up and running. Take a look at your screen there. And for those of you joining us through our radio partner, WDBO 580, you can call the number there. It's 1-800-832-WFTV. Again, I'm going to repeat that for those joining us by radio, 800-832-9388. We have volunteers on standby ready to answer any questions you have, because there are undoubtedly a lot of questions. We're still figuring this out as the storm starts to make its way towards Central Florida.
No doubt. We'll also have the important information about shelters. And while it was requested you were in shelter mode this morning, some are not, but maybe they're having second thoughts. Oak Ridge, for example, Oak Ridge High School is at capacity, so they have moved them to the middle school there, moved the extra folks. So those questions also can be addressed. Let's go now to the west coast of Florida.
That's where we find WSB reporter Michelle Newell at Tampa Bay, where they are expecting heavy flooding.
We're here along the Bay Shore, and as you can see, the rain stopped, but it was pouring earlier. Look at what's happening right now. You can see the bay, the water from it is sucked dry, but it won't look like this much longer. This area will flood just like it did in 2017 with Hurricane Irma. Now, we've seen people actually walking in this area, and you can see them gathering out there now. Many are stopping by just to take pictures. Take a look at the line of people you see here along the bay. Everyone I've spoken with today, they told me they just want to come out, take pictures. They were jogging, biking, but they told me once this storm hits, they plan to ride it all the way through.
And that was Michelle Newell, one of our reporters from our sister station, our flagship, really, WSB in Atlanta, really a sign that we are sparing no resources to make sure that you are covered and that you are safe. But that video that we saw is just, you know, unbelievable to see that. But what's really disturbing is to see the people out there. This is not a safe thing to do right now.
Yeah, storm surge is the issue, and it's, you know, talk about flash flooding. That would be flash storm surge possible. Again, hopefully they'll be okay. We do have some people now that are already dealing with power outages. We got an update moments ago from Florida Power and Light about its efforts to get the power back on for thousands of customers.
We are continuing to work in between feeder bands with the men and women who are out in the field to get the lights back on just as quickly and safely as possible. And we're going to continue to do that throughout this event, and it's going to be a life-changing event. This is a very powerful, catastrophic storm that is going to do significant damage to homes, businesses, and infrastructure across Southwest Florida.
And of course, earlier this morning, I was on the air with Kirsten Delgado, and we heard the governor and officials from and I'll talk about how they have thousands of line workers now, not only from the state of Florida, but from surrounding states now here to help. And they are being mobilized now to areas where they can be set up and be ready to respond once it is safe to do so. And that's the important thing here. They do have to wait until it's safe to do so.
And the one thing the governor did say, though, all power outages are not treated equally. There are priorities around hospitals and infrastructures, and of course maybe large neighborhoods or people that need that, assisted living facilities, etc. So we'll again be in a pecking order there when our power goes out, and we'll just have to be patient. We have new footage as well, and this is video coming to us from Marco Island, and this is one of the most beautiful, serene vacation areas that I've ever been in all of Florida. I love Marco Island, and this is what the folks there with their cell phones have sent in to us. You can see the water has gone over the docks. Neighborhood streets have actually turned into this, basically a part of the ocean. This is the storm surge we're talking about. So many times you think of flooding from rain. Well, in this instance, that's not rain that caused this. This is the growing of the Gulf, the pushing from the wind of that water ashore. And this is what they were worried about, and this is their reality right now. That's just one example, Darlene.
You see how high that water is? Some of it almost near the top of mailboxes there. That's just how much water there is there. If you look there in the middle of the road, if we keep the video up, you will see as it comes around again, that water is just, I'm thinking of my own mailbox, maybe at least 4 feet tall.
Yeah, Darlene, it's really high, and I'm really glad you pointed that out. That takes a keen eye, because we have a new storm report here from Punta Rasa. There are multiple posts on social media from Fort Myers Beach of the storm surge levels going up to first-story roofs.
Wow.
That's the surge that Cassandra was just talking about.
That's right, yes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because you were also talking about the same surge, but in reverse, is drawing the waters out of Tampa Bay.
Right, which is crazy, because I think a lot of people, when you think about hurricanes, we forget, because you're in one spot, so your feeling or experience is coming from one direction, but the storm as a whole, on the south side of this storm system, you're having winds near Fort Myers, Marco Island, Naples that are actually coming onshore, but the reverse is happening as you get on the north side. They're actually pulling offshore.
So when you think about it, 150, 155 mile per hour winds over this swath over a long period of time. We've been tracking this for days, and for days that water has been driven up along the beach, and now it's culminating with these storm surge levels that are now peaking near the rooftops of first floor buildings near the Fort Myers Beach area. And then in reverse, Cassie, Tampa Bay right here with the counterclockwise flow just draws the water out, and we saw this before.
Yeah, we have seen this before in many storms. And Tampa Bay, this isn't the first time they've seen the water sucked out, but just keep in mind, Darlene was mentioning how it's unsafe to be out there. The water, although it's not there now, it's going to be coming back.
Will come back. So obviously, at your own risk to do stuff like that. I would stay off. I think it's better to be safe in a situation like this. Let's get to the nuts and bolts, because we want to tell you when the center of the storm is actually headed into your county. So here's the icon for the storm, Cassie. Still pretty strong. This is 7 o'clock this evening.
Yeah, and I think this is probably one of the biggest questions that myself, I can't speak for the rest of us, maybe fields, is when is it going to be the worst where I live? And this is really a kind of a good explainer for that, so we can progress this storm hour by hour. You can see here as we get into Polk County, we're at Thursday 2 a.m. Now this is the center of the storm system, so you want to back it up a couple of hours. So late tonight and overnight is when we're really going to start to experience some of the worst conditions in parts of Polk County.
And as Tom Terry always says, the hurricane is not a point. This is a broad area. As you get closer to the center, or at least the eye wall, I should say, that's when the winds gradually get worse, more destructive. That's where the heavy rains tend to accumulate as well.
Yeah, and it's really hard to say the worst weather, because we've had tornado warnings, and that may very well be your worst weather if you have a tornado warning moving through your backyard, or a tornado. So really, when we say worst weather, we're really focusing on kind of the core of that storm system headed either near you or over you in the situation moving forward.
And so this is 2 a.m. So the center of the storm over Polk County, just south of Winter Haven, on the current track. So we take you from 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. A lot of people are trying to sleep. You're hearing the wind hitting your house. You're hearing the rain. You know, your kids may be needing a little comforting, but between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., that's when this storm tomorrow morning is pushing into Osceola County, potentially near parts of Orange County. So Kissimmee could be near the center of the storm right away in the morning.
Yeah, and, you know, and something to keep in mind too with these storm systems, you may not have a very significant eye wall, but there may be a time where you have very nasty weather and things calm down, and you may be right in the center of that storm system, because right now there is more than 100-mile swath of clear skies right in the center of this storm system.
Yeah, tend to be very strong, organized storms. And as we take you from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., look at that. It takes that long, tomorrow morning to tomorrow afternoon, to move from essentially Osceola, Orange, Seminole, and Brevard County.
That's an 8-hour window, and you have to think that's continued tropical storm force winds, that's continued rainfall, and again, you know, I don't think we can stress it enough that rain was always going to be one of the bigger players with this storm system, just due to the slow movement.
And the slow movement has another effect, because everything becomes cumulative. We'll make it through the day today, and people will think, oh, it wasn't that bad in my neighborhood. Well, in other neighborhoods it was. We're just getting started, because tomorrow is when everything will fit in place even more. The winds will be closer. We'll still have the tornado threat, and especially on the north side, it looks like, of this track, the 10 to 20-inch rainfall totals will be adding up at that point. You know, so the flood risk continues to grow.
Yeah, and you think already this morning, Brevard County, probably one of the further locations away from the center of the storm, has already gotten 5 to 6 inches of rain in some communities.
And the hurricane just made landfall on the other side of the state. We've already had numerous tornado warnings on the side of the screen here. You can see our live cameras, but it's really not until Thursday night and Friday morning, so tomorrow night and Friday morning, that it's moving north as a tropical storm. We have some county-by-county impacts. Lake County, you want to take this?
Yeah, we'll take Lake County, and then we'll send it back to the anchors. Tonight, 5 o'clock to about tomorrow, 8 p.m. is when that worst weather is your time frame. And again, winds 55 to about 75 miles per hour, gusts even higher, that flooding potential. Again, you're going to be right on the north side of the storm system for almost the entire duration, especially as we get up towards the villages, Astor and Eustis. So that's where we could get some of the bigger rain totals when we're talking 10 to 15 inches.
All right, let's toss it to Greg and Darlene with the latest update.
All right, so just about an hour and a half ago, we went over to Daytona Beach, and we saw our reporter Demi Johnson there, and we saw how the conditions were starting to change. Let's get caught up with what's happening there now with reporter Mike Springer.
Yeah, he is there along Daytona Beach at Main Street. This is the world's most famous beach, one of the world's most famous picture places as well, and not a great day on the beach, right, Mike?
No, Greg, in fact, the county has flying those double red flags right now, telling people to stay off of the beach because of the worsening weather conditions. And if you look over here, you can see how rough the surf is. Captain Andy Etheridge spoke earlier at a press conference this afternoon saying they're expecting about 12-foot-high surf potentially from this storm here. They are saying there's dangerous rip currents as well. They're asking people to stay off the beaches and out of the water. Not everyone, though, is following that order there. Now, as you go onto the beach here, you can see for the most part it is empty. We have seen people, though, come on here, on and off the beach, as they do throughout these storms, to check out the conditions, to check out the water. But again, Volusia County Beach Safety is advising people not to do that. And as Demi had mentioned earlier, we're even seeing dead wildlife out here, birds that have died and are dead here on the beach in the sand as well. So these are some of the conditions we're seeing out here, and it's going to be some time before the driving lanes reopen here on the beach, because again, they're going to have to put those trash cans back up. They'll put those driving posts back up. They closed those driving lanes yesterday afternoon, and until they put those driving posts back in, they're not going to be able to reopen them then. But again, Volusia County Beach Safety is advising people, because of the conditions right now, the strong surf, those strong rip currents, they're advising them to stay off the beach and stay out of the water, as these conditions are expected to worsen as we get into the evening. Reporting live at Daytona Beach, Mike Springer, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right. Also news out of that news conference, the news briefing we took you to in Volusia. Curfew going into effect for all of Volusia County. It starts at 8 o'clock tonight, and that's for everybody's safety and for emergency crews so they can respond as the storm gets closer and closer, Darlene.
Yeah, so the person behind Mike in that live shot You know, certainly we don't want to see people out there now, but definitely not when this curfew goes into effect. It runs through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. It will resume at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and then again until 7 a.m. on Friday. County leaders say it does not apply, of course, to members of law enforcement, emergency workers, or employees of businesses or government entities while they are traveling to and from their jobs. We would call those essential workers in a time of a storm.
You know, we talked about how big the storm was, and Tom just brought this over to me. So this is breaking news regarding the historic size of this. It is now the tied for fourth, largest or strongest hurricane to ever make landfall in Florida. You know, there's Storm Andrew, of course, Michael, the one in the Florida Keys in 1919, Charlie, and now Ian, right there in the top 5, tied for fourth. So we thought this was going to be significant, and historically, it will go down in the history books as one of the top 5 all-time to hit land here in the state of Florida.
And still making its way here to Central Florida.
We've got some breaking news as well right now. Florida State troopers on the scene of a deadly crash in Lake County. It happened just after lunchtime today around 12:30.
Yeah, Greg, I was actually in the newsroom there when I saw this come across, and I actually reached out to the Florida Highway Patrol and asked if we could get these photos you're seeing right now that we just got into our newsroom from state troopers. This scene is on County Road 48 and Ranch Road in Astatula. Troopers are still investigating what caused this truck and car to collide here in this area. But Greg, of course, it's possible that this is weather related. Here's what we do know so far. Unfortunately, investigators say a 38-year-old man, 38 years old, from Howey in the Hills died here on the scene of this crash. And you can see how horrific the damage is to that vehicle that they were driving. The other driver involved in this, the pickup truck driver, was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And of course, you know, not to, harp on this too much, but this again is why we encourage you to stay indoors. Now is not the time to be out trying to run any errands or do anything that is not essential at this moment.
You know, in the last 10 most deadliest hurricanes, it bears repeating that there were about 950 deaths not related directly. They're called indirect fatalities, and a large number of them in that last 10 were car crashes, 56 of the 960 or so. And again, this would be an indirect cause of a hurricane, because when the storm hits, and it was in Florida, that would be considered a death. That would be an indirect cause, regardless of what happened here. So again, there's an example of why the roads won't be safe for any of us in the next 48 hours. Let's turn our attention to Seminole County, and that is where we find Channel 9's Jeff Lefkulich.
Yeah, he is live there. And Jeff, people are expecting the worst of Ian a little later on this evening. You're driving around town now. I know that area prone to flooding, many areas.
Yeah, there's the river.
Yeah, that's right, guys. We are driving right along Lake Monroe here, and the water is very choppy as the waves are pushing up against the seawall here in Sanford. We're going to get out here in a little bit and set up and show you more of how choppy the water is here and just how high up it is here at Lake Monroe. And that's just because all the water and the rain we've gotten so far recently adding to it. The water and the rains that we've been getting over the last couple of hours here in Sanford from those bands from Ian are just adding to it. And so we expect flooding here in Seminole County, because if you live along the St. Johns River, and we've been talking about it since last Friday, that you're going to see some flooding. So this is the situation right now. We're just driving along the lake at this point, and we will check back in with you in a little bit and give you a closer view of what's going on along the lake here.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you. And it just reminds me of 2004 during Charlie, Francis, and Jean. One of those storms, we had one of our reporters, and it looks like an ocean many times. Lake Monroe, which is the St. Johns River, which flows, interestingly enough, from south to north and creates a lot of the flooding we see several days or weeks after a major storm. It can look like an ocean there, and there's been studies that have been done.
Yeah, in just a short time, I was able to find this study the county did back in 2020, and they did it because of what we see now. They said it's only a matter of time that they see something like this where areas are flooded around Lake Jessup, Lake Monroe, where we saw Jeff Love Coolidge, and also the Lake Harney areas. That area saw 12 inches of rain during Hurricane Irma in 2017. That's a foot of rain right there, and it just sat on top of that area. They had to use kayaks after Charlie to try to get people to safety there because there was so much rain. It's unclear if the county was able to get a lot of that work done. I know Jeff touched on it there briefly, but it looks like, you know, obviously still some improvement needs to be done to try to keep the people who live around those lakes safe.
And if history repeats itself in terms of what we're going to see and what is forecast, some of those scenes that we've seen in the past will likely be repeated. I know the people in the Lake Harney area are very worried, very concerned. Sandbags doing what they can, and they have those large vehicles that can go through to try to rescue if anyone did not evacuate.
Yeah. Let's get you over to Lake County. That's where Channel 9's Jeff Deal has been this morning.
Yeah, he is live on the side of Lake Dora. That's Tavares, and so far so good. I know that's where they store some of the seaplanes, Jeff.
It is, yeah. Not too many planes out here today, and really for the first time today, we're starting to see some rain. You know, there have been some off and on rains, but really starting to get a little bit more rain now and more wind than we saw last time we came to you guys. You can look outside here and see water just rippling along. It's moving across the lake out here on Lake Dora. So a little more action, and we're starting to feel a little bit more of the weather. This is an area that's known for people just having fun out here on their boats. One of the bigger boats, more popular things that a lot of folks might be used to seeing out here, the Dora Queen, for special events out here. It is docked, and then right across over here there's some smaller boats. You can see how well it's tied down. We saw some folks out here yesterday tying down some boats. A lot of people actually pulling their boats out of this marina, and then as we walk along, if you take a look down there, you kind of see the little tiki hut looking thing. We talked to the owner of that business. It's actually a boat that they take out where people can have a little party while walking around, or floating around rather, out here on the lake. Obviously, he tied that down. He was telling us that he really couldn't take that boat out of the lake just because of the shape of the boat. They would actually have to lift it up instead of towing it out of the boat like you would for a traditional boat. So people out here are prepping. They're ready for this storm and hoping it's not going to be too bad out here. Around town, we haven't really seen too many people worried about this. In fact, we just saw a gentleman who was out taking his dog for a walk, trying to get his dog a little bit more activity and exercise before the rest of this storm does come in. As you heard Cassie say just a few minutes ago, 5 o'clock may be the time where we start to see some real serious action out here, but we're going to continue to monitor things and let you know what we see. For now, reporting live from Tavares in Lake County, Jeff Deal, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Channel 9's Shannon Butler has been over Osceola County today. I was there back during Irma, so we know just how much flooding and rain that area can get during storms like this.
And they're going to see a significant amount of rain. Shannon Butler is again now along Lake Toho. And Shannon, it's got rougher since we talked to you about a half hour ago.
Yeah, the conditions are I want to say slowly getting worse, but this happened just in the last 15 minutes or so. Just since we talked to you the last time, the rain is nonstop right now. In fact, there were power crews that were just lined up here in this parking lot. They have left now to stage somewhere else. We do have some folks that have come here to the marina. Some of them just like looking at what's happening. Others came to check on their boats. You can see there are boats tied up all along here on East Lake Toho. So far, you know, so good. These winds aren't rough enough yet. These boats seem to be holding. This gentleman has come now twice to take a look to make sure that his boat is secured enough along this harbor. Again, so far so good. But when I talked to you the last time, if you remember, I showed you East Lake Toho and you could see all those white caps almost look like an ocean. But now you cannot see across East Lake Toho anymore. It was clear before. You could see the waves. You could see almost you know, the side of the lake now, but now it is just gray and wet and very, very difficult to see. The winds have picked up. They're pretty steady now. terrible. I can still stand very easily here, but they continue to pick up here. But right now, it is the rain. It is just pummeling Osceola County right now. It is, you can see just off the water how these squalls just keep kicking up the water and kicking up this rain. These conditions now, people in Osceola really need to be inside now. It is very difficult. If you look, Carrie, spin this around. If you look across there, that is a road along the lake. It is very, very difficult. In front of you, take a look at the parking lot, how that water is just sliding along that parking lot right now, a couple inches thick. Unless you have a vehicle that can get through, it is getting harder and harder now to drive along these roads. You can see the trees. I'm sure you can hear from my microphone that the wind is getting stronger and stronger. Just as I'm standing here talking to you, there is a significant amount of rain already starting here in Osceola County, and you know that storm is miles and miles away, just making landfall, and already here in the south of our viewing area, they're starting to get pummeled.
All right, Shannon, that is a very descriptive. Take some cover there. We'll come back to you and your photographer, Carrie, there. I just talked with Tom. This is one of those examples of those feeder bands that are just starting. It's going to pound us like that for the rest of the immediate future. Lake Toho is 35 miles. It's a huge lake, and it's the inflow for the Shingle Creek, so that water's got to go somewhere. Much of it goes to Shingle Creek. Then it winds up in people's yards, in their homes, and so the flooding is going to be significant. We also saw some video, and we're going to encourage people with this graphic right here, safely, maybe through your window, or if the squall has passed, to share your video with us, and we'll share it to our viewers. WFTV.com/share. Very easy to remember. Take a video or picture on your phone, send it along. We will then share it. We just got some video, and I'm going to get it turned around shortly, and it's in New Smyrna along Riverside Drive, and some of the boats there, and this is, again, a long way from where Shannon is, have broken free from their dock lines and are now banging against the seawall in New Smyrna Beach, and the storm is so far from there, and yet that is already happening.
So you think the storm right now is still, what, 150 miles from?
It's 120 miles from, pardon me, I've been looking at this.
From
where Shannon Butler was in Osceola County, 120 miles from Kissimmee. It's about 140 miles from Orlando, so that would put it, what, 170 miles plus or minus from New Smyrna. So, yeah.
And yet that is the type of flow that Tom and his team are covering right now. So WFTV.com/share. We want to get those visuals in, but safely. So be careful as you provide us with some of that. WFTV.com/share for your videos and pictures. Please send those along.
Yeah, we have a team of reporters scattered all over Central Florida, and as I said earlier, we have resources from our sister stations also helping us to make sure that you are covered during the storm, and they are staying safe, and we want to keep you safe. We're also starting to see a lot of damage in some of the surrounding counties right here in Central Florida.
Trees toppling over. That will be a repeated story. Channel 9's Jared Oliver went to a neighborhood near Alafaya Woods, and he has a look at what's happened there so far.
As Hurricane Ian gets closer and closer to Central Florida, we're already seeing some of the damage that's taking place out here. You can see this tree branch fell from this large tree here in someone's front yard. Lots of debris probably on the way as this storm continues to get closer and closer. You can also see how close it was almost to hitting the roof of this home. Could have been much more severe as damage continue and wind continues to come closer and closer to Central Florida as the storm continues to come off the coast into Central Florida. This is just some of the damage that we'll see later and later as the storm continues to come closer to Orlando. It is important and imperative for people to stay inside, hunker down, and stay as safe as possible. You can see the wind and the rain beginning to pick up here in this neighborhood in Winter Park. For now, we're outside of Winter Park. Channel 9 Eyewitness News, Jared Oliver.
All right, Jared, thank you. Here's another live look taking you to the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. This links St. Petersburg and Tampa. A lot of the water in Tampa Bay has been sucked out by the storm surge and thrown into other areas. We're going to explain how that happens, where the water went, and where it's headed as we continue our coverage here on Eyewitness News of Hurricane Ian. Now the tied for fourth, largest and strongest hurricane to ever hit the state of Florida.
Let the weight fall off with our Medi Weight Loss New You Fall Special. Tired of losing just 1 to 2 pounds a week? Lose up to 20 pounds your first month. Schedule your free assessment today and get real weight loss now with Medi Weight Loss, accepting most insurance plans.
If your pets have turned your floors into an eyesore, 54 now has the newest hardwood, tile, laminate, luxury vinyl, and carpet. Call today to get free installation. 50 Floor is home improvement. Done right.
I'm Matt Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. I recently continued my legal education at Harvard College of Law's program on negotiation. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. At this executive education course, I learned some of the most current and cutting-edge negotiation techniques. The attorney you hire can become one of the most important decisions of your life. You and your family only have one shot at full and fair compensation. Make sure the attorney you hire is prepared. Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com.
Sometimes you're so busy taking care of everyone else, you don't do enough for yourself or your mouth. But eventually it will remind you. When it does, Aspen Dental is here for you. We offer the custom dental treatments you need all under one roof right nearby, so we can bring more life to your smile and more smile to your life, affordably. New patients without insurance can get a free complete exam and x-rays and 20% off treatment plans. Aspen Dental, anything to make you smile. Schedule your appointment today.
If your pets have turned your floors into an eyesore, 54 now has the newest hardwood, tile, laminate, luxury vinyl, and carpet. Call today to get free installation. 50 Floor is home improvement. Done right.
Let the weight fall off with our Medi Weight Loss New You Fall Special. Tired of losing just 1 to 2 pounds a week? Lose up to 20 pounds your first month. Schedule your free assessment today and get real weight loss now with Medi Weight Loss, accepting most insurance plans.
We are seeing those outer bands big time across Central Florida, and right now as we check back in with our coverage right before the 4 o'clock hour, we've got really feeling it.
Yeah, Channel 9's Christy Turner has been monitoring conditions in Orla Vista in Orange County all morning long into the afternoon.
We had a period here in Orange County where it was clear, and I was actually able to take my rain jacket off, but as you can see, it is back on. The rain is starting to come down once again. The wind is whipping. You can see here at this 7-Eleven on South OBT, it is boarded up just to be safe. People are still out here running errands and also grabbing some gas, and we have been running all over Orange County since 3 o'clock this morning, monitoring the conditions and checking for storm damage. We saw a tree that came crashing down in someone's backyard earlier. We've also had reports of downed lines, which is extremely dangerous. And as the rain continues, flooding is a major concern. Earlier, we were in the Orla Vista neighborhood. It's notorious for flooding. We spoke to a neighbor, and he says he's just hoping for the best.
We're crossing our fingers. You never know what's going to happen.
Orla Vista is a low-lying area, and people there were actually encouraged to evacuate. That neighbor says he's just going to ride out the storm in the comfort of his own home. He said he checked out hotels, but he just couldn't find one within the budget. Reporting in Orange County, Christy Turner, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Take a look at these new images. We're just getting into our newsroom now from Naples. This is, wow, unbelievable amount of damage there. And just look at the water there. The downtown area right now, it's flooded out.
Yeah, that's that surge we're talking about. New video out of Tampa Bay right now. And this is that phenomenon. We've seen it before, but come to the TV for this. This is something that shows you just don't see this. This is water that was literally sucked out of Tampa Bay by the wind that creates the surge down in Southwest Florida. And Tom, as you look at this imagery with people walking Tampa Bay, it's crazy.
They need to go home.
You know, Irma was approaching 5 years. Pictures out of the Bahamas, and back then you're not sure if it's real, someone just made the stuff up. And then we got reports out of Tampa that the water was out of the bay, and Irma was a big Cat 4 coming into the Keys. And but right now, you see on my shoulder here, this is a kind of like a reverse of the surge here, and that water, the winds are just blowing offshore, and for right now it's coming back, but it has emptied out part of the bay.
come back rapidly? Because Darlene said those people need to get out of the water. Would it come back as quickly as it left?
Probably a little more slowly, but frankly, I've never been out to witness this, so I don't have an exact answer. It's not just going to be like a 100-mile-an-hour tidal wave. It's going to just kind of gradually work its way back in, because the winds
high tide and low tide.
winds are going to keep pushing, then it kind of weakens and lets it come back in. So it won't be just like 100 miles an hour and everyone's washed away.
I want to show that video just one more time if we could. And I don't mean to throw our directors, who are doing a wonderful job navigating me through all of this, because my mind is, ADD is like going all over the place. But you look at this video, Tom. I've heard about this. I've never seen it.
We heard about this during Irma, but we were up to our elbows and everything else in the storm, so we haven't really had a chance to take this all in. But this just gives you a glimpse of the magnitude of the power of this storm to take that water, trillions of gallons, and just sweeping it offshore.
Yeah, this is the area. So when you're, say, going over to Clearwater and Tampa, jet skis are there. People are enjoying the beautiful blue waters. This is so pristine and gorgeous, and this is why it's called Tampa Bay. It's
pretty
literally
shallow
a bay.
area, yeah, very shallow. And I want to show, we have another graphic, and it's an amazing sight there. Gosh, be careful, guys. Now, that's the really, really shallow part there. So there's still water on the other side, but at least for now, it's been enough to take it out. But with a landfall of 150 miles an hour, this is equal to the 4th most powerful storm to make landfall with Charlie, which was a 150 miles an hour, but just a small storm compared to this one, much larger. It also ties with the Keys hurricane of over 100 years ago, and we're just below the only 3 Cat 5s to hit the state. So this is big.
And we're only a couple, I know it's close enough for government work, as you like to say, but we're only a couple of miles away from it, as a Cat 5. But the significant damage that we're going to see once it's safe for crews to go into that beautiful area of Naples, Fort Myers, and you just showed some video and talked about what we saw, that rising water from the tides. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to overwhelm our system. People are really going to have to pull together to put the pieces back together, and it's going to take some time. It's not going to take days or weeks. It's going to take months, and power is going to be out for significant periods.
Yeah, other storms have moved so quickly. This one is still just churning.
About 8 to 9 miles an hour, so about half speed. And we got live pictures right behind me. We'll just keep it over the shoulder, but you can see downtown Daytona. We've got a squall coming in Metro Orlando right now. My wife just sent a video from Apopka at the Ponderosa, and it's blowing pretty good, and it's going to get worse overnight tonight, especially after sunset.
WFTV.com/share. So many people can do this even more safely than ever before. Maybe they have doorbell video cameras and things like that. You can just download that, share it to us, and get it on the air. We want to get as many. This is a visual storm so many times, and we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk more with Tom. But the one thing too, so many storms happen when it's dark. This one's happening in daylight. We're going to be able to see as this thing plays out over Central Florida. Port Canaveral is your live look right now. This is where we typically see cruise ships going in and out, and docked there to your right. Not today with our Fish Lips camera. It is a dark and scary night in Brevard and across Central Florida. We're going to take you every step of the way. We're not going anywhere. You're watching continuous coverage of Hurricane Ian here on Eyewitness News. Eyewitness News at 4. Coming right back.
With dentures from Aspen Dental, all they'll see is your confident smile. How do we do it? We provide exceptional care all in one place. And our denture experts craft natural-looking dentures right in our in-office labs, because we'll do anything to make sure your smile looks like your smile. Off a full denture art. We can even get started today. Aspen Dental, anything to make you smile. Schedule your complimentary denture consultation now.
It's your journey. Own every mile in the Hyundai Sonata. Get a Hyundai Sonata with 3.29% APR for 48 months, plus 3 years complimentary maintenance. Visit buyhyundai.com today.
Ready, set, Go! Shop the amazing bed sale at Rooms to Go Kids and Teens for sweet savings on kids' beds starting at $2.99. The coolest looks and styles. A great selection, all in one place. Get super sale prices on theme beds, beds with storage, shop bunk and loft beds, save big on bookcase beds, and upholstered beds. Fun, functional, colorful kids' beds on sale and ready to go at the amazing bed sale now at Rooms to Go Kids. Rooms to Go.
My husband was hit head-on by an irresponsible driver, and attorney Dan Newland got us $2.3 million in our pockets. That money's really going to help. Thank you, Dan.
As one of the largest personal injury law firms in the United States, my team and I remain committed more than ever to win big on your case. Involved in a car accident? Let's get started. Call me at 407-888-8000. That's 407-888-8000.
Thank you, Dan.
Our Eye on the Tropics team coverage continues right now on Eyewitness News at 4.
We have got the storm again fully covered for you from all angles here locally. We'll also take you to Southwest Florida, where the official landfall happened, and the storm in terms of its trek towards us about 120 miles away. Team coverage coming up, including our team of certified meteorologists and Tom Terry giving us the timing and the expectations for what we're going to see here in Central Florida begin. It is just about 4 o'clock, and we've got you, for the next 36 hours or so.
Yeah, and indeed, and we have reporters scattered all across Central Florida and other parts of the state to help us make sure that you stay updated as the storm continues to make it towards Central Florida.
Let's begin with Nick Pampantonis. He is in Kissimmee right now. And Nick, we understand that one of those outer bands in a squally weather is hitting you where you stand.
Yeah, we just kind of entered this very heavy band here. It's hard to see with the water kind of coming straight into my eyes. But what I want to draw your attention to is the result of all of that. Starting to see the early signs of this inland flooding. A lot of Kissimmee sits in FEMA's what they consider their 100-year floodplain, and so the water kind of not only stacks up on its way going to the rivers, but can kind of just sit here on the road and the street itself. This water that you just saw on the street is going to wind up in this ditch right here that runs through the middle of Kissimmee, and this is going to enter into Lake Toho, which is where Shingle Creek also enters into. So you got all this water that's falling down over the course of the next 36 hours or so that's going to be entering these very singular low-lying streams, rivers, water systems. It's all going to be stacking up and potentially flooding some areas. We've seen some sandbags, not quite here on Amos Street where we are right now. We've seen some kind of driving in this way as we're heading to this site. But we can tell here the water in this ditch right beside me is definitely starting to rise and hit some of those what might be considered the normal high water marks, and that again is going to be flooding into Shingle Creek and Lake Toho, all those converging to where again the water, as we saw a few years ago during Irma, might start to overtop some banks, might start to enter some homes. The thing with Osceola County, like so much of Central Florida, is that a lot of this development around here is brand new. A lot of these homes haven't been through a serious storm like this, and so there are going to be some developments here. If there's enough rain that does fall down and continuously pounding the soggy ground, they're going to see these homes that have these flooding issues for the very first time. The homeowners might not even be aware. So we are going to be monitoring this again. Early stages here. We're expecting those heavier bands, as Tom will talk about, to start moving in more and more frequently. But again, we've already seen the water stacking up early on in this process. Live in Kissimmee, Nick Pampantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, and that's the first time we've seen Nick today as our team of reporters start to replace one another there in the field because they are getting rest and, you know, keeping us updated over the next couple of days.
Tag team efforts. Let's go back over again to certified chief meteorologist Tom Terry with his team of meteorologists. And we see George and Cassandra there, and Rusty's getting his break. But, Tom, this is an historic storm that we're seeing right now, and it made its landfall in Cayo Costa about an hour ago.
That's that whole pretty area.
That's me, microphone. That's that whole pretty area. It's Sanibel, Port Captiva, the whole thing. And they're just
Charlie came in, same spot.
That's right. And Charlie was a quick hitter, moving about 20, 25 miles an hour. This one's moving at 9 miles an hour. And as we saw in the video earlier, there's the landfall point. We are just literally, we've sucked all the water out of Tampa Bay, at least the shallows there, and continues to just throttle on through. But we're getting some pretty good squalls coming through. Where we have the heavy bursts of rain, that's where we get the gustier winds. You can see our camera shaking around. That's over at Daytona Beach. And of course, downtown Orlando, we've had the squalls coming through intermittently. The wind gust reports right now, we're getting these tropical storm force wind gusts, and the storm's still 120 miles away. It's going to weaken, obviously, as it moves over land, but we're going to get a lot more of this more sustained wind, what George and Cassie are going to talk about in just a minute later on tonight. We did have a funnel cloud report, it looks like over here west of Palm Bay earlier today. We're going to get more of this. Still watching these scatter showers coming by. There's still a nice little drier slot coming in on the southeast side of the storm, which I'm hopeful will limit some of the overly excess rainfall estimates for the next few hours. But right now, Titusville over toward Orlando, the squalls continue. There's that heavy rain burst. Then we still have a little gap here, although we're still kind of shooting out some little downbursts of rain. But look at this, 123 miles away. It has made landfall and will spin. This, where you see the heaviest rain reflectivity, that is going to be the mass of this continuing to lift more toward the north. We'll get a new track update at 5 o'clock. Our own in-house model, the IBM model, which we've used a lot, is even faster than the track here. We want to get this thing out as fast as possible, but the track still generally brings it up tomorrow morning across, say, Osceola, parts of Orange County. We'll keep this update. They may speed the timing up a little bit. They've kind of been following behind the model a little bit, but throughout the Sure. Yeah, let's go to it as we show you the track tomorrow coming offshore. This is what the hurricane looked like over from the International Space Station flying overhead, and they get that bird's eye view about every 90 minutes, and just a massive, massive storm as we take a look from space. So that particular storm continues to move inland and will slowly weaken as it moves in our direction over the next 8 to 12 hours. I want to toss it over to George and Cassie right now with more specific timing impacts, because the next 24 hours are going to be our time to get this weather.
Yeah, and you know, Cassie, one of the most common questions I get, when does it get here, right? Because it's actually very complex and it depends on your location. We're still waiting, and that'll be the thing all the way through the evening and overnight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know.
So overnight, the winds will build and will continue with the tornado threat.
I'm following Tom's suit with the mic.
Exactly, yeah. But tomorrow morning, you know, this is when the center of Ian will actually be approaching and moving overhead.
Exactly, and then by tomorrow morning, it's going to move closer to our coastline. That's where we have the storm surge possibilities up in parts of Flagler County, as the warnings have been issued up in Flagler County. And George, you put this together. This is a great graphic to show kind of the center of the storm. We spoke about this about a half an hour ago, that it's really hard to pinpoint worst weather, because for some of us, we've already gotten some pretty bad weather. But when we talk worst, we're really talking kind of about the core of the storm system right around the eye wall. And this kind of times it out for us as we move forward.
Yeah, so as you wait until these times, you're getting the rain band. So off and on heavy rain, the tornado threat continues. But the center of the storm passing this, Polk County, and beginning to creep into Osceola County, probably around 6 a.m. tomorrow. And then closer to Kissimmee, rest of Osceola County, 8 a.m.
Right.
And then into 10 a.m. into Orange County, and then Sanford over toward East Orange County noon, 2 p.m. approaching the coast. So this is about 8 hours to move from Polk County offshore. So right now, a slow-moving system. Right. There are some models indicating that it could move a little faster tomorrow morning, but right now, this is the forecast we're going with.
Right.
And one thing I want to say is the slower the storm, at least it's more time for the storm to weaken before it gets here. Sure. But on the other hand, more time for the storm to rain on us, and that enhances the flood threat.
Right, and really to the slow progression and the time of this, it's great to go county by county and talk about what the impacts that we'll have. So this is down into Osceola and even into Polk County. Expect to kind of have the same timeline for this, but early tomorrow morning, the center of the storm system is going to be moving overhead. Widespread shower and storm activity, the flooding, and even the potential of additional tornadoes. We've had a couple of tornado warnings down in Osceola County. Power outages is something that we're going to see a lot of, and we've got some information coming up on that, because we're starting to get some of the numbers coming in from FPL, Duke Energy, about some of the power outages happening.
And as the center moves into Osceola County, if that's the track it it takes. That's where it looks like it's going. I think tomorrow morning is when we start to see those power outages really tally up in Osceola County. And then here in Orange County, as we go through the morning, early afternoon, again, right now it looks like it may track through East Orange County as we go through the morning. Still some uncertainty, the exact track, not only because of, you know, the models are kind of changing, but it tends to wobble as well with the movement. But still that heavy rain threat is what we'll be timing out as well. And you made this graphic kind of analyzing the power outages.
Well, yeah, and over the last few hours, just seeing this number climb, I mean, we expected to see huge numbers coming out of South Florida. FPL, the provider for really most of South Florida. And just about an hour and a half ago, I was showing this, and it was sitting at about 250,000 customers without power. We've now tripled that. We're sitting at 725,000 without power. We're going to continue to monitor that. And again, an obvious scenario, really, with the landfall down in Southwest Florida. Duke Energy, as we talk about over towards St. Pete and Tampa, about 75,000 reported customers without, and we're expecting more of that as we head through the overnight.
And so when we're looking at this yellow shading, this is basically showing the areas that power outages are expected, and then the color table. So we have some oranges in here. That's when you tend to see a little bit more in that area. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So this is the likelihood of getting some of those power outages. And really, this is kind of it took us through a little time lapse of a few hours from 8 o'clock till 10 p.m. Something to remember, that's a rolling, you kind of saw the map evolve, kind of a rolling likelihood of power outages, but just know workers are not going to go out if it's in unsafe conditions. So, you know, as we move forward, if your power goes out, it may most likely be for the entire duration of the storm, and then hopefully it can get restored quickly.
Yeah, so one tip that you put on here is great. Charge your laptops right now, charge your phones right now. If you have some of those power sticks, those portable chargers, charge them up right now. Charge everything right now while you have power. And, you know, make sure you have the Wftv weather app and the Wftv news app on your phone. Both apps, actually. You can get weather alerts if you use the weather app on your phone, even if your power goes out, even if you're sleeping, just enable the notifications. And then if you download the Wftv news app, you can watch live coverage on that. This coverage you can watch right on your smartphone. We also have an app on your TV, your smart TV. You can watch that as well. And we just want to make sure we have every avenue covered so we can keep you ahead of the storm. If you have power in the middle of the night, whatever, we want to walk you through this storm. And right now, Ian has actually made landfall.
Yeah, and we want to keep you safe, but we're going to send it back to Greg and Darlene.
All right, and Kaya Costa is the answer to the trivia question, where did it make landfall? Fort Myers right now, Fort Myers Beach, those homes that are closest, there are videos that are coming into our newsroom of actually homes being lifted off their foundations by that storm's surge. So significant problems for those folks. We'll have significant rain and issues for us too.
Yeah, and meteorologist Cassandra Cremy and George Waldenberger, they were just talking about the power outages and how massive they are down in those areas. We also have some power outages already here in the Central Florida area and Seminole and Lake counties seeing power outages already.
Let's check out Claremont right now. Channel 9's Christopher Heath is live there. He's been through a storm or a dozen, and he joins us live. Chris.
Hey, Greg, right now we're starting to get a bit of what we get when these storms start to come in, and that is the wind picks up, the rain picks up, then it starts to die back down. One of the things we've been keeping an eye on, if you take a look behind me, you can see some of the traffic lights hanging there over US 27. Now, the Florida Department of Transportation actually tests these systems up to 115 miles per hour for wind gusts to see exactly how they're going to perform. So, in other words, they've tested these things out. You can see them swaying back and forth in the wind. They're designed to do that. They're supposed to basically ride with the wind so that they don't put too much tension on those span wires that go across. And then, of course, they come back when the winds start to come back down. We're not seeing anything near 150-mile-an-hour winds right now in Claremont, but we do expect that as the storm starts to make its way up the state of Florida, we're going to start to see conditions continue to deteriorate out here. The rain pick back up, the wind pick back up and become much more consistent. We've driven around today throughout parts of southern Lake County. Some of the places here are prone to flooding, and you can go to those places and you see a lot of residents putting sandbags up, getting things boarded up, getting things put in place because they've been through these storms before, and they realize if we get the kind of rain that we are expecting, they could be in for a very long 24, 48 hours, even longer, depending on exactly what we get here. But people definitely taking this seriously. You've seen a lot of businesses here in Lake County start to shut down throughout the day. Roads you can see behind me again, US 27. Some cars still out there, but the traffic has diminished throughout the day as more and more people are heading home, finding their safe place, and getting out of the path of this storm because they know exactly what we've heard from Tom, Terry, George Wallenberg, and Cassandra Crimmy all day, and that is that this storm is coming to this area, and things are going to get worse into the evening and into tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on it here in Claremont. For now, reporting live in Claremont, Christopher Heath, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Chris, again, reports coming in from all over Southwest Florida that tornadoes also are starting to pop up there. We're monitoring our tornado situation and the possibility of that here. We'll go back over to Severe Weather Center 9 in just a second. But first, let's take you back outside.
Yeah, we're going to get you to Channel 9 Shannon Butler, who has been all over Osceola County. The last time we saw her, just after this storm made landfall down near the Captiva and the Cayacosta area. Shannon, you were dealing with some pretty heavy wind and rain over there.
Yeah, we're getting just a little break right now. It just stopped just a few minutes ago. The rain is still coming down, but the wind not as bad as it was when I saw you last. You can see here we are at the marina here on East Lake Toho. The boats all along here seem to be doing fine, but one after another of the owners have come out here to check to make sure these boats are actually still secured and doing okay. Earlier, I showed you East Lake Toho. Carrie, if you spin around there, you can see right now it's a little calmer. You can see there are white caps on that lake right now that we don't always see unless there is some strong winds. They are still here. You can see the water is starting to rise just a little bit out here. They are expecting an awful lot of rain here in Osceola County. In fact, they were some of the first to get this kind of strong weather, these squalls that came in just as that storm made landfall south of us, at least 100 miles or more away from us, still here in Osceola County, but they already are feeling the effects. Earlier, we talked to the St. Cloud police chief. He said the biggest worry for him is that people will, when it dies down like this, will want to come out and take a look at the boats and the lake and the weather, and he really wants to make sure that people are staying inside.